an opportunity to be heard. Application number 684-24, Ann and John Casson. Permission to leave pool patio having side yard of 5.3 feet instead of required 6 feet, and driveway having side yard of 1.9 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AA District, east side of St. Mark's Lane, 276.37 feet north of Maple Street, Islip.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You could just give us your name and address for the record?
John Casson,
Ann Casson.
145 St. Mark's Lane, Islip, New York.
And you're here on the pool patio in the driveway?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this?
No question.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
No? Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make the motion to grant the application.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, application is granted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Application number 647-24, Ruben Guevara, Belkey Guevara Contreras, and Ana Contreras. Permission to leave driveways having side yards of 2.8 feet and 3.6 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residence AA District, south side of Lexington Avenue, 800 feet west of Fulton Street, Brentwood.
For the applicant, Frank Montero, with office at 94 West Main Street, Bayshore.
You want to present, or?
I'm sorry.
No? All right, so we're here on the in-ground pool and the patios?
No, he's just
Oh,
driveways.
I'm on the wrong one, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, oof.
So you can't present
Well,
it.
yeah, the driveways, I'm sorry.
Driveway to the in-ground pool.
Okay, any questions from the board on this?
No questions.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application?
Number two.
Number 2.
647?
Okay. If
come
you
on
could
up.
step aside, let her come up.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. My name is Doris Davidson, and
Your address, please?
21 Lexington Avenue.
Thank you.
This home was sold, and I know the home very well because as a child, I had friends who lived in this home. It was a 3-family home. It's now a 9-bedroom home. They just tried to sell this house. There was a stop order put, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath because I was running. There was a stop order put when they were doing the driveway. They ignored the stop order. Okay, and this is a problem when residents in Brentwood see issues, we call it in. Stop orders are issued. They come here, and you all grant these grievances, whatever it is that they're looking for. I am asking you not to grant this because it's a 9-bedroom home, okay? They ignored the stop orders when it was given to them and continued. And they have a box truck in the back that you can clearly see when the gates are opened. You don't need 2 driveways. Why do you have a 9-bedroom home? There's no 9-bedroom homes that are legal. I have a listing here from the real estate. I have no idea, but there's 9 bedrooms when they tried to sell this home a few months ago. Okay? So I am asking you that right now, that's a busy road. One, they should have been, was a stop order. They should have stopped when they were asked to, but they continued, ignored all ordinance, anything that was given to them, rules. So I am just asking that you do not move forward on this, because this is the problem. You all keep granting and granting and granting. I will then find myself having to call code enforcement because neighbors will start to call, neighbors will start to complain. Code enforcement says there's nothing they can do, but it's because you all don't know what the story is, what goes on in these homes.
What would you call code enforcement about?
Well, let's just say the home is sold, okay? Now I have 2 driveways, okay? Cars are going all the way into the backyard. You're not supposed to have commercial vehicles in your backyard.
That's a separate issue.
Right, but that would be something that I would call code enforcement, but you all allowed the driveway to stay in place. Okay, so now we have commercial vehicles in the back. Okay, code enforcement can't help me get these commercial vehicles. We have the same issue across the street. We have the same issue that you all granted someone a few blocks down for a garage. And you're turning our residential homes, neighborhood, into commercial areas. And they don't pay taxes. All these businesses that are going on in Brentwood, they don't pay commercial taxes. Okay, and this home literally has a box truck in the back. Okay, I'm asking from all my neighbors that are probably stuck in traffic or went to the wrong, building, that you do not grant this. This is an issue that we have because we call code enforcement and when issues are granted and there's nothing they can do. Because people don't allow them to go in, people don't allow them to walk into the homes, walk onto the property, and it's an issue that Brentwood faces every time you are granting something. So I am here on behalf of my neighborhood and my neighbors that this is not granted. Look it up. Look at what I'm telling you. It's a 9-bedroom home.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? No? All right, I'll take a motion to reserve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, reserve decision on that.
Application number 685-24, James and Janine Tyree. Permission to leave in-ground pool having side yard of 13.8 feet instead of required 14 feet, and concrete pad having side yard of 2.9 feet and rear yard of 2.6 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residence A District, south side of South Street, 105 feet west of Higbee Lane, West Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. I just want to do what applicant number 1 did.
Wants to do it, applicant number 1.
Okay, any questions from the board?
No questions from the board.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
For that excellent presentation, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor? Application's granted. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 686-24, Edwin and Zulma Giron. Permission to leave roofed-over cellar entrance having side yard of 11.1 feet instead of required 14 feet. Patio having side yard of 1.5 feet and driveway on-side property line not having required 4-foot side yard. Residence B District, west side of Peters Boulevard, 200 feet north of Kelly Avenue, Central Islip.
Hi, this is Edwin and Zuma Jerome from 47 Peters Boulevard, Central Islip.
Okay, we have the roofed-over entrance, patio, and then the driveway?
Yes.
Any questions from the board on this?
No, sir.
No.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Anybody else like to be heard in this application? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application number 687-24, Alvin Grant. Permission to leave pool equipment having second front yard of 6.5 feet instead of required 27 feet. Residence A District, southwest corner of Raft Avenue and Batan Drive, Holbrook.
Good evening, members of the board. Salvatore Bashir from Permits R Us on behalf of Mr. Grant at 370 Raft Avenue. He's looking to maintain the pool equipment with a side yard of 6.5 feet as opposed to required 27 feet. The pool was installed by the pool company, and he was advised that placing it in that location was legal. And obviously, after you guys granted us the permission to put the pool with a lesser required side yard setback for the pool, we found out, once the updated survey was done, that the pool equipment was placed in the wrong area.
You're with whom? I'm sorry?
Permits are us. I filed the application. Originally, I represented the case in front of the board for his proposed pool.
Planning, you have any comments on this?
So pool equipment has a separate setback than a normal residential accessory structure would. It's supposed to be 6 feet. They are 6.5 feet. The reason it's being brought up is because it's unclear in the code it is technically considered part of the pool, and a second front yard for a pool is supposed to have 27 feet. I would argue that the 6 foot that is specific to the pool equipment should have taken precedence, so planning's opinion is that this honestly probably would be better interpreted as conforming in the first place, but given that, I don't think there's an actual issue with the request.
Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? No? All right, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the application.
All in favor? Application's granted.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
He thinks it should not have to observe the accessory structure setback. He thinks it should be, pool equipment should always just have to have 6 feet. I agree with that. Yeah. Application number 688-24, Jose Hernandez. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-601 to leave diving board having side yard of 9.5 feet instead of required 14 feet, pool equipment having side yard of 3.9 feet and rear yard of 1.1 feet instead of required 6 feet each, pool patio having side yards of 3.2 feet and 4.7 feet, and rear yard of 4.6 feet instead of required 6 feet each, and rear yard landscaping of 29.8% instead of required 40%. Residence A District, east side of Laurie Road, 591.12 feet south of Comac Road, Brentwood.
Good evening. My name is Jose Hernandez from 46 Laurie Road, Brentwood, New York. All this thing is made
I'm
from...
sorry, can you speak up? I can't hear you.
All right. I'm Jose Hernandez. All this thing is made for the company, for the pool company and the landscaping company. So I don't even know if it was illegal or not legal.
I'm sorry.
Could you say that again? We can't hear you. It's the distance, it's a big room.
All right.
Lift the microphone up, maybe, that'll help.
All this thing, it was made for the company.
Wait, all of these things you make it from the company?
No, it's the company make for me. The pool company make for me.
Well, okay, but that doesn't make it okay. But go ahead.
That's the only thing that I can say right now.
So you're saying that the pool company did this?
Yeah.
The only thing that is problematic is the rear yard landscape. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
They, New York State trumps us.
What are we doing with rear yard?
all right.
Third.
Yeah.
We're gonna discuss granting you 30% in the backyard. You're gonna have to add some landscaping back there and get rid of some of that stone.
All right.
Stone out, grass in.
All right.
Planning, any comments on this application?
I don't have anything to add.
Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this
Just
application?
about the accessory apartment. The accessory apartment is small, it's 484 square feet, and the driveway has been approved by engineering, and it fits 4 cars.
So we're good.
We're good.
All right. So I'll take a motion in on the application.
I'll make a motion to deny so much of the application for the rear yard landscaping and grant rear yard landscaping at 30% instead of 40%, and grant the remainder of the application.
The apartment.
And the apartment, the accessory apartment granted for 3 year period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Application is granted as modified.
All right.
Okay, so that was Dan and Bill. Application number 689-24, Mark and Shelley Rodman. Permission to erect 6-foot fence on property line not having required setback of 10 feet and to renew permit for 2-family, family use only. Residence B District, northwest corner of Lincoln Avenue and Joseph Street Extension, Sayville.
Good evening, Mark Rodman, 240 Lincoln Avenue, Sayville.
All right, and the, I see on the, through the application, in the 2-family, family use only, we have the parents' ages of 73 and 70.
Well, that's when they were, but no, they're older now, 83 and 86.
Yeah, I guess you must have taken this from the original.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so that's fine. The, on the fence, planning, you have any comments on the fence?
The lot itself is fairly large. It doesn't come close to the exception. It's over 40,000 square feet, in fact.
Yeah, it's very big.
Given that, I don't really see much of a justification for the fence being on the property line. There are some lots in the nearby area that do have fences closer, but they would all meet the exception. Most of the lots around them are much smaller than the subject.
Why can't you put the fence where it would comply?
Well, there's a couple reasons. One, there's an existing 4-foot fence there now on that property line, and it is behind the house. It's a second front yard, I guess is what they consider it. And as far as the 6-foot fence goes, I don't see why we can't just put it where the 4-foot fence is. There's a 4-foot fence there now, as is.
But it's there illegally.
It's not there illegally.
complies.
Oh, no, the 4 fence is legal.
Yeah.
6 foot is not. That's
Yeah,
why.
we don't have a 6-foot fence
No,
now.
but don't you want to put a 6
Yeah,
foot
yeah.
fence?
The
Okay.
4-foot fence is an 8-foot setback. If you put the 6-foot fence up, you got to go 18 feet setback.
No, 10.
No, 10 feet.
8
Oh, you
plus
mean
10.
from the curb?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
That's
now you're,
not from your
now you're,
property line.
now, right, so now you're 28 feet back from the curb. We have a bunch of trees that are on that side of the yard as well. We like to keep the trees in the backyard, not on the side yard. There's several massive trees. We're not looking to remove them or do anything with them. There's nothing wrong with them. So,
Hold on 1 second.
yep,
The current fence that's 4 feet is 8 foot.
no, wait,
It's 8 feet back.
8 feet, correct, from
And
the
you want to put the 6 foot where the
4-foot
4
is.
foot is.
Correct, and
So
it's
you're
all in the
asking
back, it's
for-
all in the back side of the property. It's from the,
But here's my question. You're removing the chain link fence.
correct.
So why can't you comply? Because we encourage compliance. Why can't you comply? If you're putting in a new fence, put it where it belongs, 2 feet further back.
It's not 2 feet further back. It's another 10 feet further back.
Bill, the 8 feet.
'Cause
he's
it's a
speaking of
6-foot.
is not his property. He's-
Oh, the 8
I-
feet's not your property.
Right.
So
The 8
the 8
feet's the
feet's
right
the
of
right
way.
of way?
The right-of-way, right.
So right
Correct.
now, the 4-foot fence is on the property line,
Correct. Exactly.
which is drawn on the survey, right?
Yeah, it should all be on the survey that was submitted.
He's talking about 8 feet, it's right of way.
And it's all in the, what would be considered the
That's the 4-foot fence that's
backyard.
on the
It's not,
Is that with a 6-foot?
it's not the front yard.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the fence is almost right on the road.
No, it's not on the road.
I didn't say it's on the road. I said, well, we're having a problem here. It's almost right on the road.
8 feet, correct. Is 8
That's
feet,
not
that's-
eight, but that's not
That's the
your
right of way.
property.
The 8 feet isn't your property,
right.
You can't,
so you can't count that.
yeah, you can't use property that's not yours to keep saying it's 8 feet. It's not. It's not your property. You can't use the person's next door or the municipality's property to say, look, it's 8 feet. When we look at your survey on your property, it's on the property line.
The 4-foot fence is on the property line,
Right.
correct.
And we don't want the 6-foot
That's it,
fence
right?
on the property line. So it's got to
Right.
comply.
So it has to be set back how far from where it is now then? 10 feet more?
10 feet.
10 feet from your property
10
line.
feet further?
Or you can leave the 4 foot.
Yeah, yeah, the 4-foot fence is a chain link fence, yeah. Okay.
So you could keep a 4-foot fence there.
Yeah, we could, but it's, the 4-foot fence is a chain link fence now. We have a dog, we want some privacy. Yeah.
But if you put a 4-foot vinyl fence, the dog would have a problem.
It's not going to be giving him, he'll be all over that fence. He'll be over it. It's not going to help the situation. So,
All right, any other questions from the board? Planning, anything else on this?
I don't have anything to add, no.
Okay, is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? Yes, sir, if you could please come up, if you could step aside, let him speak.
My name is Stephen Taff, 6 Berrant Court. My issue with the fence, along the side where he's talking about in the backyard, I have no issue with that. My concern is that it's a safety issue. If you allow him to come all the way to the front of his house with an 8-foot fence, it becomes a safety hazard and an obstacle. I have photos that if you allow a fence to come down to Lincoln Avenue off of Joseph, it's going to obstruct views. Can I show you this?
You can, but he's, if you could hand it to Jay, please.
Wait, let him speak. We'll give you all the time.
It's going to obstruct views of pedestrians. We have a lot of kids there coming down Lincoln Avenue. That fence, if you allow it to come up to the front, 8 feet from the corner of Lincoln down to Joseph, it just blocks the,
Can I just say one thing?
yeah.
The town has a setback and a triangle, and the engineers review that to see what's legal, so it'll have to be legal.
Well, that's, from the way it says on here, it seems like, from what the public notice says, on the corner of Lincoln and Joseph. So that, the fence he has up now,
That's describing the location of the property.
yes, but his 4-foot fence goes to the corner of Lincoln Avenue and Joseph, so it's like,
Asking for the fence to be up to Lincoln.
He's only
okay.
asking
Then
for-
I have no issue with the fence as a neighbor going the other way. He wants privacy along the back, like, I'm just concerned for safety issues of the
What he's
obstruction.
requesting, sir, is 6 foot high up to basically the front of the house.
I think that's, personally, if he wants to put up a 6-foot fence for privacy, I'm
No,
okay
we're
with
going
that.
to, hang on. We're extending you the courtesy of having our staff show you
Yes.
where the fence is going to go. It's not going to go to Lincoln.
Listen, I was concerned, again, that it was going to go to Lincoln.
But it's not.
Then I have no issue with it.
Okay.
So you're agreeing?
You're
Yes,
okay then?
I just wanted to make,
Yep.
I didn't want to go into Lincoln, because,
It's not.
again,
It's not.
then I'm
not
fine
the
with it.
application. Correct, sir?
No.
Oh, hold on,
Lincoln.
hold on.
Oh,
But the 4-foot fence is existing. And it's chain link.
chain link.
Yes, and
And
it's
you're gonna
fine
keep
the way
it.
it is. My concern that was going to be 6 up to Lincoln,
It's not.
and if it's not, that's fine.
well, let's ask.
Yeah, let's ask, if you could step aside, let the applicant come up.
Yes.
Can I just ask Nick, is there going to be a site triangle problem if it goes to the same distance as the current 4-foot fence?
According to the plan that I'm looking at, a 6-foot fence ends at the front line of the dwelling, then it transitions to the 4-foot fence, and in fact becomes a 3-foot fence where it would be in the triangle. So based on the proposal, there's no site distance triangle issue.
Okay, so it's going to be, it's got to comply with the site triangle. and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
can't
they'll-
be-
That's fine. I already spoke to Dan Burgos about all this.
knows
We
his
we
stuff.
met with him
Okay.
many times, and the only issue that he suggested doing was coming here and asking for permission, not forgiveness. I did not put the fence up and then come back years later and you guys find it and say, hey, listen, what'd you do here? No. We came to ask permission to do the fence and move it from the 6-foot fence to where the existing 4-foot fence was. So I'm hearing you loud and clear, we cannot do that, but we can continue with the fence from the 6 foot forward of the front of the house to the corner with a transition fence.
Yeah. No, you can put a 4-foot fence on the property line, you can put a 6-foot fence 10 feet in over the property line.
Right. It's gonna look silly, like the way you're doing that, but, yeah,
That's the code.
yeah.
Okay.
I get it.
Anyone else would like to be heard in this application? No? All right, then I'll take a motion,
No,
please.
renewed for 3 years. He just happened to have a renewal, so we held
Oh,
the
sorry, okay.
I'll make a motion to grant the application for the renewal of a 2-family use only for a period of 3 years and deny the application for the 6-foot fence on the property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Application number 690-24, Dustin Cogliano and Veronica Cutchall. Permission to erect one-story addition, 6.6 by 13.7, and to leave one-story addition, 6.5 by 8.1, having effective rear yard of 6 feet each instead of required 25 feet each. To leave shed, having effective rear yard of 0 feet instead of required 2 feet. To install walkway and to leave pavers, having effective rear yard of 0 feet each instead of required 4 feet each. Residence B District, northeast corner of Dogwood Road and Foxglove Road, West Islip.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Bill Hennessy, architect for the applicant, with offices at 11 Chester Court in Huntington. Essentially, the two additions that are, we're seeking permission. Can you hear me?
No, I can.
Okay, sorry. The two additions that we're seeking this special exception on the rear yard setback essentially will allow interior access from the main part of the dwelling down into the basement. There's an existing stair there now that's in the back that we're seeking to enclose so that rather than go outside the house to go down into the basement, this can be accessed from in the interior side of the house. The lot is in irregular shape, and the way the zoning presents the rear yard setback, it's virtually impossible for us to comply and do anything on this property in the way of improvement without coming to this board and seeking special permission.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What jumps off the calendar, or the agenda, if me, is 6 feet instead of required, where it says having effective rear yard of 6 feet each instead of required 25 feet.
Yes, because of the irregular shape and the way the definition in the land use manual sets the rear yard setback, it's an imaginary line. And essentially, it's parallel to the principal front yard, which is dogwood. And you strike a line that's 75 feet across two property lines that are not parallel to the street. That establishes a rear yard setback line. And we're 6 feet from where the existing house is now, from that imaginary line.
I guess I'm trying to understand, and again, you'll have to bear with me, I'm trying to figure this out.
It is complicated to understand.
Yeah, well, yeah. You'll help me. I'm looking at the eastern corner where you propose.
Yes.
Okay. And that distance from the easternmost corner to the property line is going to be 6 feet. No? Yes?
No.
I'm not sure I follow you.
Okay, I'm just,
Maybe we'll ask planning.
yeah, planning, can you understand what I'm grappling with?
I didn't hear your question, I'm sorry.
Can I just, excuse me 1 second?
Sure.
Pardon me.
What do we got?
You can't hear it. Is this going to be 6 feet?
No. So,
Okay.
as he was trying to explain, there's, because this back corner does not meeting lot width, you see this, the rear boundary line of
Yes.
75 feet drawn, an imaginary line. That's where this setback is being measured from, so it's actually
Okay.
6 feet from there to this imaginary line.
Oh, I see. But it doesn't pull it closer to the eastern line?
The distance between the house and this eastern line is about actually I wrote it down, 14.7.
And what will it be after this?
No, that's the proposed. As proposed, the house would be 14.7 feet from this line.
And what is it now?
12.
That I don't know.
It's 12,
12?
yes.
Yeah, it actually is coming in slightly. They're demolishing a section.
Oh, okay. Now I understand the imaginary. I don't remember seeing
Well,
imaginary.
it's okay. It took
So
Dan
we're gonna
Burgo.
give you an imaginary decision.
And
I get it.
anything north of that imaginary line is considered zero setback territory.
Right.
So even though it's actual land that my client owns, there's a shed on that piece of property. There's also the patio crosses over the imaginary line and encroaches into a zero setback area that we need relief on, as well as a walk that we want to be able to build around our addition to connect back to the porch, to the patio, I'm sorry.
Planning, is there anything else you'd like to add on this?
Mostly just to reiterate what he said. The applicant is definitely very punished by the styling of the lot. That's not really a great word for it. The orientation of the lot, I guess it'd say, and the imaginary line, therefore, as for the zoning code. A lot of these setbacks wouldn't even be getting brought up if it weren't for the fact that the back triangle portion of their property is just not counting for their setbacks in any capacity. The only one I think that would be getting brought up would be, again, a rear yard of 14.7 instead of 25. But that rear yard being measured to the eastern property line, functionally it's closer to a side yard. In terms of impact for that neighbor, it is their side yard, and 14 would be conforming for a side yard. And that's completely a function of just the way the lot is. They are, in fact, as was said, coming in slightly, demolishing a corner of that, so they're conforming more than what they were prior to coming here.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? No? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor? Application's granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Application number 691-24, Jose Gerardo and Kenya Saravia. Permission to leave roofed-over patio, 10 by 24, having 3.2 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet. Residence AA District, east side of 4th Street, 100 feet south of 3rd Street, Brentwood.
Es Jose Jurado and Kenya Sarabia, 123 4th Street, Brentwood.
Good evening, you're here on the patio, right? Okay, is there any questions from the board on this matter? No, planning, any comments on this?
This is a roof over patio, correct?
Correct. According to the.
What do we do with, what, or have we done with roofed over patios that close to the property line? Have we, I don't recall how we treated those, unless somebody else does.
I don't recall that, to be honest.
Close to the front of the
Oh, close to the front of the
Yeah.
house, right. Oh,
Try to get it up. Hopefully it shows.
pretty large.
Is this the right?
If we grant this, we're gonna have to.
It's like in two parts. It's in two parts.
So here are the roof over patios in question. It's these two structures right here with the different roof lines. I don't know if they're peeking over the fence. I'm not sure what the height of them is. I guess maybe we could try to.
Yeah, let me see the photos. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Is this a little
didn't help.
larger that we don't want to set precedent in allowing?
You can see it the last photograph.
Oh, that would be useful. I mean, in this sense, it's a roof over patio, which is an accessory structure, so it's being treated in the same way that a shed would be, not necessarily a patio would be. The reasoning for that, as you can see, it does peek over the fence in the same way that a shed more than 6 feet in height would. So I would say the most reasonable way to do this would be treated similar to how sheds are treated in terms of front yard behind the front line of the dwelling, because the impact is effectively the same. It's a structure peeking over the roof or the fence line.
And we would not leave a shed that close to the front line of the house, would we?
Typically not, but
Maybe they can cut it back a certain amount. I mean,
What if they move the front one behind the back one?
that was a thought. It looks like there's two roof overs, in fact, and the one that's further back is probably not actually at issue, or if it is, it's not very much. I don't know the specific numbers on that.
do we want to think about giving them a specific number? It's got to be X from the property line, and then they can do what they please to comply. I mean, you want to say 10 feet from or 15 feet?
10 feet is a common number the board has granted in the past, I could at least
Yes.
say,
Yes,
From the,
from behind the front line of the dwelling.
from the front line, 10 feet back from the front line of the house.
And it's really just the roof.
Right.
It's not the patio.
right, it's just the roofed over portion.
Right.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? No? Okay. Just trying to explain this. We're gonna vote on it, but we're thinking of making you move the roof. You can keep the patio there, but the roof over portion has to be 10 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Okay?
So you'll have to chop it back.
You'll have to bring it back. You'll have to remove it and bring it back.
And what's above the roof?
That's what we're talking about, the
The
roof.
first roof.
The
Just the
roof,
first
right?
roof.
We had to move. like-
Basically, the first structure you'll have to remove,
All right.
okay? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make the motion that we deny so much the application seeking a setback of 3.2 instead of 20, but grant 10 feet from the front line of the dwelling.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
They didn't even stand.
No,
They left before you.
didn't want to
No,
wait.
they don't know what's happening. It's very small.
Didn't want to see how it ended. You don't know who done it. We're gonna find out it was McCabe.
Oh, I know who died.
McCabe in the library with the candles.
Application number 657-24, Andrea Uline, Carl Buckner, and Gerald Buckner Jr. Permission to leave one-story addition, 18.5 by 33.2, having side yard of 12 feet instead of required 18 feet, and total side yards of 22 feet instead of required 36 feet. Residence AA District, south side of Vanderbilt Avenue, 432.16 feet east of Joshua's Path, Central Islip.
Gerald Bruckner, I'm here for the 108 Vanderbilt Avenue property in CI.
Okay, we're here on just the one-story addition.
Yes.
All right, any questions from the board on this? No? Planning, any comments?
Just really quick to establish, to the best of my knowledge, this was actually issued a building permit in 2003. It was just never CO'd, so I have no issue with it.
Okay, is anyone else would like to be heard in this matter? Okay, then I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion to grant the application. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Thank you.
We have additional documents that were supposed to be forwarded to you. Can I give them to you now?
You won.
You won.
I know I won, but
You won. We read everything.
Oh,
3
the
times
photographs, yeah, we were trying to get photographs of it.
You
That's,
don't need them anymore?
over. You ought to
If
be like
you
the
want to
last-
submit them, we'll take them.
Then we might deny it.
We may
No.
change our mind.
I don't think so.
You don't know us. We don't know. I would make a beeline to that back door.
Follow the people before you.
Go.
Keep.
Okay, yeah, yep, we don't need them.
It's already been granted.
We granted it.
Thank you.
application number 692-24, Alexander and Nina Romanich. Permission to leave rear yard landscaping of 27% instead of required 40%. Residence B District, south side of Asher Road, 330 feet east of Dogwood Road, West Islip.
Good evening. I'm Alexander Romanich
Nina Romanich from 310 Astor Road.
in West Islip.
And we're just here on the rear yard landscaping?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We, planning, what's your comments on this?
I don't see much of a reason for it to be less than 30%. I
30%.
don't think there's unique circumstances that would otherwise justify it.
Basically, going to ask you to plant 3% of grass. Make it up to 30%.
3% of grass.
3%, okay. 'Cause
Okay,
we-
does anyone else like to be heard in this application? No? Okay, so I'll make a quick motion to amend the call to read landscaping of 30% instead of required 40%.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye, and then I'll take a motion on the application.
Grant the application as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's amended to 30%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Have a good night.
Can I get credit?
Yeah, I don't, you want me to call you out? I mean, only Billy
No.
calls you out.
I know, so keep him under control.
I'm trying.
Application number 693-24, William and Samantha Stores. Permission to leave 6-foot fence having front yard of 5.9 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence AA District, southwest corner of Carolyn Court and Walnut Avenue, Bohemia.
Hi, I'm William Stores. This is my wife Samantha. We live at 2 Carolyn Court, Bohemia.
You're speaking to the microphone, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Yes, hi, I'm William. This is my wife Samantha. We live at 2 Carolyn Court, Bohemia.
All right, you're here on the fence?
Yes.
Okay. Planning, any comments?
That's a 24,000 approximately square foot lot. It's not very close to the exception, and this is a second front yard fence. It's not too terribly dissimilar to the case that we heard before, other than that this is an existing fence rather than proposed, but that's the only difference, really.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard what he said, but basically you're going to have to bring it in compliance, 10 feet. All right, is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this application?
Before we, there's a few existing trees there that is part of the reason why the fence line is there. Is there any reason,
I mean, you could reduce it to 4 feet.
To 4 feet?
Right, 4 feet would be okay at that location?
You can leave it at 4 feet right where it is. But if you
Okay.
want it at 6, it's got to go back.
Okay.
Leave it at 4 feet to the property line.
What's that?
If it was 4 feet, it could go right to the property
Yeah,
line.
but 4 feet high, you could bring it to the property line.
Okay.
Yeah, understood. There was a lot of other trees and stuff. I'm sure there's pictures, but there was a lot of other trees when the fence was changed. And since then, they've come down, but at the time, that was the ideal location. for
Yeah,
the fence.
unfortunately, that, all right, so I'll take a motion then on the application.
Make a motion to deny the application.
Second.
All in favor? Application's denied.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just curious. I just noticed that the cameras that face the public aren't on.
You mean the screens?
The screens, right. So when,
It's not being utilized very much anyway tonight.
okay.
Yeah,
but
these aren't really working for us.
Do they work, though, just in case somebody wanted to point out something they can't see what we can?
I'm sure they could be turned on.
All right. All right, I'm just not sure if they work, but all right.
We're having technical difficulties with our monitors tonight. If anyone cares.
Application number 694-24, Christopher Otten, permission to erect second-story addition, 34.9 by 41 irregular, leaving side yard of 11.58 instead of required 14 feet, to leave two sheds, shed 1 having side yard of 1.5 feet and rear yard of 0.9 feet, and shed 2 having side yard of 1.58 feet instead of required 2 feet each. Residence A District, west side of Maroki Lane, 255 feet north of Wyandotte Lane, East Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Gennaro Cozzolino for the homeowners.
Hold on.
Spell. Oh. There you go. Is that better? Gennaro Cozzolino for the homeowner, Christopher Otten of 48 Maroki Lane, East Islip, also known as Section 373, Block 3, Lot 77, located in the Residence A zone. We're requesting relief from the board to build a second-floor addition. The proposed addition requires a variance for side yard setback, requesting to build at 11.58 feet from permitted 14 feet, a difference of 2.42 feet. Proposed addition is to be built over the existing footprint of the house, not to encroach any further into the side yard. Also variance to maintain two sheds located in the southwesterly corner of the property. The sheds require variances for side yard setbacks of 1.5 feet and 1.58 feet respectively, instead of the 2 feet required, and variances for rear yard, a variance for rear yard setback of 0.9 feet instead of the 2 feet required. Sheds have been there for several years, and the yards are being very well maintained. No known complaints from any of the abutting properties. That is it.
Planning, any comments?
Yeah, so the second, this is going straight up. Now, that's not normally enough by itself, but there are a couple of other grants in the area at 11.6 and 11.8. And I would point out that the second story facing here is a little under 15 feet of length. It's not a very long continuous length that is going to be the second story that's non-conforming, so I don't have an issue with it.
They're keeping the existing,
It's an existing setback
Yeah, and what he just
for a
said
first
was-
story, but yes.
And even so, it's just a small wall.
Right.
It's gonna be like that.
okay, is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? No? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good evening.
Application number 695-24, Michael and Stephanie Skyford. Permission to erect second-story addition, 13.5 by 30.6, leaving front yard of 25.79 feet instead of required 40 feet, second front yard of 17.3 feet instead of required 22 feet, and floor area ratio of 30.1% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, southwest corner of Center Bay Drive and Bay 8th Street, West Islip.
Good evening. Christopher Ang, 93 Main Street, West Haven. This property, we're proposing a second-story addition, reducing the front yard, the side yard, and also increasing the FAR to 30.1% instead of the 25%. I had a chance to review this with planning. I think all three of these, these exceptions are within the nature and character of the neighborhood, including the FAR. I just want to point out that the FAR would be 29%, but we're over about 1.1% because there is a cantilever in the rear yard that covers the deck, and because it covers the deck, it increases our FAR by that 1.1%.
Thank you. Planning, any comments?
Yeah, so as you said, it's really, the cantilever is not even at issue. The 30.1 is well within the character of the neighborhood, if that was a concern. The only part of the application that's a bit different would be the second front yard. It's not too substantial of a request. This area is known for having a lot of nonconformity. In fact, directly across the street, the front yard for that house on the other side of Bay 8th is a front yard of 17. They would be identical distance from the street, except in their case, it's more of a setback that they're non-conforming to as opposed to what's being requested here. But this is an area with a lot of non-conforming setbacks all over, and I don't think this is considered too substantial what they're asking for.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else would like to be heard in this application? No? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Thank you.
Application number 696-24, Muna Zaidi, permission to erect two-story addition, 20 by 33.3, leaving rear yard of 16.7 feet instead of required 25 feet. Is anybody here on that application? Maybe he's at the other building. What time is it? 6:30. Could have gone to the other building, but he should be here by now.
They would be here by now.
Yeah, we'll do a second call because he's a representative that usually is here. Application number 697-24, Adrian Ocasio. Permission to leave gazebo, 12 by 25, having front yard of 4.5 feet instead of required 20 feet, and not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Egress window having front yard of 21.2 feet instead of required 25 feet. 2 air condenser units not having 4 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Rear yard landscaping of 32.8% instead of required 40%, and driveway having side yard of 0.2 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of East Walnut Street and Nickel Avenue, Central Islip.
Good evening. Larry Buscemi, Select Permits, 15 Vineyard Way, Mount Sinai, New York. Buscemi is B-U-S-C-E-M-I. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Where to begin? We have a lot of structures on this property that are not in compliance. We can start with the egress windows. I believe that the difference there is de minimis. They're at 21.2 feet from the front property line where they should be, where they should be 25. And obviously, we should encourage the installation of egress windows. As far as the AC units, they had to be there for structural reasons. And at this point, it would be super, super expensive to move them. They'd have to reduct the whole house. Landscaping is above 30%. It's at like 37%, which the difference between that and the required 40 is 620 square feet. So it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Now, as far as the driveways are concerned, not really sure what they're referring to, other than they must be talking about the paving in the backyard, as opposed to an actual driveway. As far as we know, there's no known objection. We're getting to that last. I know you. So, and to the gazebo, which is in a second front yard, and is even with the front of the house, the primary front yard. The homeowner didn't obviously understand the concept of the second front yard when he installed it. It is, in addition to the 4.5 feet to the property line, it does hold another 10 feet to the roadbed. So it is 14.5 feet from the roadbed to the structure. The structure is 10 feet high. It has been constructed and is in conformity with the character of the neighborhood. If the board has any questions.
Wasn't until the 10 years ago.
I don't, we just had a gazebo case a couple weeks or months ago. Remember we had to deny it because it was similarly so close to the property line. What?
I don't even think this is a gazebo. somebody trouble with that.
Oh my gosh, what is it?
It's like a roof over patio.
And it's got quite a pitch to it.
Yeah.
If I had to call it, I'd call it a cabana, if I had to call it something. But the surveyor called it a gazebo. It's a solid structure with no sides.
Planning, you have any comments on this for us?
As has been identified, the gazebo is the thing most at issue here. It's 4.5 instead of 20, and it's parallel with the front line of the building. As you can see in the picture here, it's not exactly short either. It peaks well above the fence line there. It's pretty visible, and it's quite substantial in size as well, built very recently. I definitely think that it would grab the attention of passerbys. It's hard not to. It's, again, rather large, 24 by, what is it even? Yeah, it's, so I don't really see much of a justification for allowing it to exist there. They have a lot of other property where something like this could have been located. It's,
How high is the gazebo?
It's 10 feet high.
At the ridge?
Yeah.
And the
Is this a
fence?
residential house?
Yes.
Property? It's a
Huh?
residential
Residential property.
They're running some kind of business out of the back of this or what?
Not to my knowledge, but
Residential.
This may not be 4 feet.
I think the gazebo's gonna present a big problem.
24.
I think you know that too.
I think you're right.
yeah, that's why I saved it for last.
Yeah, I got you. You're moving right along.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this application? Okay. You want to reserve or do you want to?
No, I think not.
Just deny that.
Yeah. Who's got a?
that's the,
I'll make a motion to deny so much of the application in regard to the gazebo and grant the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. 4 out of 5 ain't bad.
4 out of 5 ain't bad.
No. Good bad.
Application number 698-24, Mark Beekman. Permission to install in-ground pool leaving side yard of 10 feet and rear yard of 4 feet instead of required 18 feet each, and pool patio leaving rear yard of 1 foot instead of required 6 feet. To leave 2 sheds, shed 1 on rear property line not having a required setback of 2 feet, and shed 2 having 3 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet. Residence AA District, 278 Cluster, west side of Richmar Drive, approximately 414 feet west of Jewel Bay Drive, Sayville.
Good evening. Good evening, my name is Melissa Graham. I'm from Long Island Perfect Permits. We are located at 124 Front Street, Suite 205, Massapequa Park, 11762. I'm the agent representing Mark Beekman. He is the owner of 43 Richmar Drive, Section 259, Block 02, Lot 014. Did you want to put your name on? No?
Mark Beekman's brother, Edward Beekman, 24 Angia Lane, West Sayville.
So an application was filed for a proposed in-ground pool. The pool is proposed to have a side yard setback of 10 feet and a rear yard setback of 4 feet where 18 feet is required. The proposal also includes a pool patio having a rear yard setback of 1 feet where 6 feet is required. The patio has a proposed square footage of 81 square feet. The rear shed, which is shed number 1, was constructed on an angle from the property line and has a setback of 0 feet where 2 is required in the southwest corner of the shed, and in the northwest corner of the shed, it does maintain the 2-foot setback. The existing side yard shed, which is shed number 2, has a 3-foot setback behind the front-facing wall of the dwelling instead of the 20-foot required setback. The shed maintains 48 feet from the front yard, and it's 2.8 feet from the side. This is an irregularly shaped smaller lot in a residence AAA zone. My client has spoken to a few of his neighbors who do not have any issues with the variance being granted as proposed. I also would like to submit a list of signatures of neighbors who also signed in the variance to be granted.
Ms. Graham, I think the pool is very problematic
Okay.
at 4 feet. I understand it's a cluster, which is 18 feet, but we treat that as 14 feet. So even if we gave the benefit of the doubt of 14 feet, The 10 wouldn't be problematic, but the 4 is so great that it would, we just take the zoning code and throw it out the window.
Okay, the only thing with the 4 is that the way the property is positioned, there really isn't any way to put the pool on the property without,
Understood, but not every backyard gets a pool. I mean, if it doesn't fit.
Of that size.
right, I understand that, but there's also nobody behind them.
When you,
Well, that's,
when you say nobody, is that the town of Islip?
It's the town property. It can't be built on.
right. Okay, well, that's a point to be made. We're trying to,
What was that?
We need a
Yeah.
GIS.
how,
It's not GIS, it's just
is
Google
that
Maps.
a town-owned property?
Yes,
The whole entire back of it, it's almost like a park or,
Can you go out a little bit?
Could you zoom out a little, Nick? We're trying to, I mean, you could, if you want to see what we're looking at, you can.
So it's
You'll have to crimp your neck, too.
it's the fruit of the cluster. We clustered to preserve that.
So all that property behind, that whole entire strip, this whole entire block, you can't build on that. That's like a.
But there's a reason that the town clusters and wants a cluster is to leave natural and open and.
Something
I'm
that
just thinking
Beaujolais
out
just came up
loud,
on
you
your
can
phone, and it made
convince
me really want
otherwise.
a glass of red wine.
If we keep encroaching on it, then what's the point of the cluster
that
to
on New
leave
Year's Day?
natural and barriers,
Holiday
and
wine.
buffers with just eroding?
No, I understand, but there are other pools in the area who have built this close to the property line.
Well, that's, do you have those? Because that would be important for us.
I spoke with the council before, just to see if there
That-
was precedent.
Hang on, just one second. My question was very direct. Do you have those addresses? Because that would be important for us to know.
I only have the next door neighbor.
And was that a grant by this board and at what? I mean, this is trying to help you with.
No, I understand. I don't have the actual grant, I just have that, I spoke with the town council, we discussed some of the.
Which?
Oh,
I didn't know
That made him
town
laugh.
council.
That made him
Hey,
laugh.
When did you get elected?
I don't know. Didn't know I was running.
No.
He's a planning rep. I'm not only a planning rep.
It's fine.
It's just terminology.
You promoted me.
They said to call Nick, he's the council.
We're the
he'll
board.
be able to-
Well, the office.
In the variance department.
Oh, them.
So, they advised me to speak to Nick, and then I called Nick, and I spoke.
Nick runs the show.
Why don't we speak to Nick?
Why don't we let Nick speak to us?
Council? Councilman Nick?
I definitively do not run the show, just for the record.
Our little show, yes.
Here's your chance.
There is some precedent for this. There is nothing at 4, to be clear. There's multiple grants of 10 instead of 18. The point made before is correct. It actually should read instead of required 14. In reading through the cluster, I did eventually manage to find that when it was divided, it was to be adhered to Residence A standards. So it should be instead of required 14. With regards to the rear yard, that is a town-owned green space parcel behind them, not actually a residential property or anything. It will never be developed. I would treat it similarly to how you would treat like a drainage basin in terms of, like a drainage basin, a sump. Given that, the only thing that planning would ask is that the rear yard of 4 feet is problematic, not for that specific reason of the actual setback, but there's a requirement to have a barrier for a pool with a minimum separation of 4 feet. If we're giving them a grant of 4 feet, there's absolutely no room for error for their fencing. So I would recommend a rear yard of 5 feet. Contractor error happens. If they make it a bit too close, they still have some leeway to put the fence in a conforming location and not have to come back here again. So I would say a 5-foot rear yard to take into consideration that people aren't perfect and they're not going to build to exactly the standard probably. And otherwise, though, it's many times in the past there have been grants that take into consideration land that cannot be developed in the future and is not actually impacting anybody because it's just a natural green space with regards to granting more substantial setback relaxations.
Then if we were to be granted at those numbers, would council make sure that 18 point New Times Roman print
Which council are you
The real council.
Yeah, I mean, big.
Council with an S.
Five.
It should be instead of required 14. So yes, 10-foot side yard and 5-foot rear yard instead of required 14.
Yeah, they can. We usually want one compliance on one side. Right. So.
You said it should have been 14?
The requirement should be 14.
Pardon?
I was just answering it. The requirement should be 14. That's 14.
So you're saying 5 and 14?
No, I'm saying it's, well, I think we're talking about two different things. It should be a required 14, so it should be a rear yard of 5 instead of required 14, and a side yard of 10 instead of required 14. The board noting that the 5-foot rear yard is being granted due to, 1, the adjacent parcel that is owned by the town and is not to be developed, and 2, that she is correct also to bring up that the lot does have a sort of unusual shape to it in the back, so it's at one corner it comes in.
So you're saying 5 instead of 14 and 10 instead of 14?
That is what I am saying, yes.
Yes. All right, I can't hear you all the way down. Okay.
We're going to work on that. Do you hear what he said?
I did. So you were saying instead of the 4, we're going to give 1 more feet to make 5 feet to the rear, and then we're going to keep it at 10 feet on the side.
That would be planning's position.
So the side yard would be in compliance at 10 feet? Do you want me to move this side? Do you want
The pool to be moved over to 14?
That's ultimately up to you guys. I don't have an issue with it.
No, I think the question is 10 or 14 for the side yard.
I thought he just said 5 for the rear and 10 for the side.
That's planning's position. I don't vote.
Okay.
We usually require compliance on at least one side. We give you a very large variance based on.
The rear. No, I understand.
So we would say 5 on the rear and 14 on the side.
Yeah, but they're not going to approve it.
That's kind of been our rule for. Additionally, you have to address the shed. The shed on the northern property line.
Is he still talking?
It's got to be set back 20 from the front line of the property.
This one.
And would that also be as a cluster of yeah, right. So the shed, which is on the north side of the property, looks like it's right on the one.
3 feet behind the front line.
Oh, okay. The shed that's on the northern property.
So shed number 2.
Yes, it's only 3 feet. We would generally request that that be moved back 10 feet.
From the front of the dwelling.
Yes, front line. It's imaginary.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand that. Okay, even though the shed's been there forever and it really hasn't. Okay. All right, so they want to move this 10 feet back. Right. And then the pool has to go 14, you want it 4 more feet over. There's no compromise in that on the side. No, I understand that. It's just that the yard is small and he has 2 small children. He has a big play set in the corner. He's just trying to maximize his yard and get a pool.
You're convinced us, even though we're not counseling.
I do apologize. Okay. Oh.
We'll give you 12 instead of 14. Does anyone else would like to be heard this out?
Okay.
So make a motion? Yeah. I will make a motion that we deny so much of the application, seeking the pool at 4 feet and 10 feet. However, grant 5 foot on
Second.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Application number 699-24, Daniel and Jean Murphy. Permission to erect one-story addition, 14 by 26, two-story, 14 by 14, and second-story, 10.75 by 14 additions, and to leave roofed-over porch, 8 by 21.5, resulting in floor area ratio of 31.65% instead of permitted 25%. Porch having side yard of 10.7 feet instead of required 14 feet. To leave shed having side yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 2 feet, and 14 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet. 6-foot fence having front yard of 14 feet instead of required 15 feet. To modify pool patio on rear and side property lines not having a required setback of 6 feet each, leaving rear yard landscaping of 30.5% instead of required 40%. And to establish two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1 of the Islip Town Code. Residence B District, 278 Cluster, east side of San Rafael Avenue, 543.2 feet north of Live Oak Drive, Holbrook.
John Bracco, architect, 111 Railroad Avenue, Sayville, New York. Good evening, members of the board. John Bracco, architect, on behalf of the homeowners and applicants, Daniel and Jean Murphy. Jean Murphy is also here with us this evening. Daniel Murphy is a retired 36-year veteran of the FDNY, and Jean Murphy is a retired former Suffolk County employee, where she served for 10 years as the personal assistant to the Suffolk County executive. They have lived and owned the home since 1991. We are here before you tonight in regards to proposed one-story, two-story, and second-story additions to establish a two-family residence-only residence, and to maintain some existing structures on the property. The new living unit, which would be created by the proposed additions, would be for the Murphys' daughter and granddaughter to reside in. In regards to the required variances, starting with the proposed FAR of 31.65%, normally, I think, as you know, I would not come before the board with an FAR above 30%. However, in this instance, I think there are some extenuating circumstances.
Before you get to the extenuating
Yes.
circumstances, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Yes,
do you have precedent for greater than 30
I do.
in this 500-foot area?
I do.
Okay. And what are they? Just
Yeah, I'm going to get to it in like 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, above 30%. Yeah, starting with the proposed FAR at 31.65. Normally, as I think, yeah, okay. However, in this instance, I think there are extenuating circumstances which make it a reasonable request. First, the actual house square footage with the proposed additions is 29.9%, and it is the extra square footage for the existing covered porch that puts us over the 30%. Secondly, this property, as you can see from the site plan, is smaller than many of the other properties in this development due to the fact that they are right on the inside of the curve of San Rafael Avenue. And if they were a perfect rectangle like most of the other properties, the FAR with the covered porch would be 28.5%. Lastly, we found two other prior grants in this neighborhood with FARs over 30%, namely 43 San Rafael, case number 271-06, which is the rectangular property directly to the east, and was granted an FAR of 32.86 with a shed, 31.9% without the shed. And second, 295 Singing Wood Drive, case number 777-05, which was granted an FAR of 30.8%. In addition, 30.8, yes.
Okay, so that's not a precedent because you're going greater than.
That's right, but the first one is.
So you have one at 32.8.
That's right.
Okay, you're not expounding that that's the nature and character. It sounds like the nature and the character of the neighborhood is below 30. You have one.
Right,
That-
which is the house directly next door.
Yeah, but it's not the nature and character of the neighborhood.
Well, I didn't say it was the nature and the character of the
No, but we
neighborhood.
have to, because we have to look at the elements of 267B town law.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would respond to that by saying the grant to the house next door, directly next door, is a perfectly rectangular and bigger property where we're kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage here because we lose a lot of square footage because of that curve. They were granted 32.86%. Like I said, our proposal is for 29.9, just the house square footage, and it's only the covered porch that puts us over that extra. It's all, I mean, I can go one step further if you like. There was actually, I kind of went back and forth a little bit with zoning because, you know, basically the rule is if the front of the house, if the covered porch doesn't come out more than 6 feet past the front of the house, we don't even have to count the covered porch. And what's happening in our situation, the second floor cantilever is about 1.5 feet, you know, past the first floor of the house. So that covered porch does not come 6 feet past that second floor, and I tried to argue with them that we shouldn't even have to count the covered porch. And they had some discussions about it, and they came back and said, well, no, you have to go by the front wall of the first floor of the house, which I kind of really didn't agree with, but that's how they wrote up the denial. So technically, in my opinion, I don't even think we should have to count the covered porch, but that's how they wrote up the denial.
And how much would that reduce the FAR, John?
That would get it down to 29.9, yeah, without the covered porch. Yeah.
So there's an exclusion in the zoning code that allows the roofed over porch to not be counted as gross floor area, provided it's not deeper than 6 feet.
It's less than.
It's deeper, it's 8 feet deep.
No, but if
it's
it's-
debatable, yeah.
But
It's 6 foot or less, it would not count in gross floor
Yeah,
area.
it's less than
6 foot or
6
less.
feet from the second floor wall of the front of the house,
Right.
but not from the first floor wall of the front of the house.
So
Do
the
we have
argument that John is making is that it's cantilevered, so aesthetically from the roof of the porch is only 6 feet deep, but the floor of the porch is 8 feet deep, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Do we have any particulars on the 32.86 FAR? Because
Looks like it's that big house right next door.
do we know what the reasons why that was granted? That's a one-off, and if we start granting several, then we're no longer a one-off. It's no longer a one-off. And if it's an otherwise compliant neighborhood, which Nick will duly inform us, we're going to destroy the conformity. Maybe.
And to be clear, he was right about all the precedent that he stated. As for why the 32.86 was granted, I did try to look into it. He was generous enough to offer up that 1% of that is a shed that wouldn't count anymore, but that still leaves 31.8, and to the best that I can see, there's nothing else that would say that should have been reduced any further based on current code standards, so I would say that grant exists by current standards at 31.8. No explanation that I could find necessarily. It is a one-off.
It is what?
It is a one-off.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I talk pretty loud, but. I was curious, though, by your argument, because that was the first thing I was going to ask, is why is the roof over porch being counted? And why
Yes.
couldn't that be made in such a way where it wouldn't count? That's a pretty common thing for people to do to trap their FAR down. So you're saying that it's different from projected from the second story as opposed to the first story?
Yeah, the second floor of the house cantilevers a little bit past the first floor of the house. So the code says from the front of the house,
Counsel.
if a covered porch does not project more than 6 feet, it shouldn't count in the FAR. And my argument is it doesn't encroach more than 6 feet from the front of the house, but they came back and said, well, that should really be from the first floor wall, but it doesn't say that in the code. It just says from the front of the house.
All right.
It's an interesting one.
I agree, that is an interesting one.
Never to be included.
Okay.
It was good, but
Yeah.
can we just go on?
Counsel.
What do you say, well, the shed, right, at 2 feet instead of 14?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we just had several where we required 10 feet.
No, there's 14
Yeah.
instead of 20. isn't it?
Well, no, the 2 feet, we're asking for 0.5 instead of 2 on the side. Then if you're speaking about from the front of the house, yeah, from the front of the house, we're asking for 14 as opposed to the 20.
All right, that's not so. And what about the 6-foot fence? We
This-
don't like 6-foot fences.
I know that, yes. And so it's 1 foot off from the required 15, It's 14 to the property line. There's an additional 8 to the curb, so it's a total of 22 feet
But we use
to the
property
fence.
line, so we don't use the curb.
Oh, I understand that. Yep.
So what is it from the property line?
From the property line, it's 14 feet.
Instead of 15.
It's a 6.
14 instead of 15?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And you can
Yeah.
see why.
The savings grace for the 31.65 is that,
The front porch.
yeah, the front porch, as Mary and our chairman was explaining to me, that may be a safe harbor for you, because if we take that out and we'll write it in the opinion, you're at 29 point something.
29.9, yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
So this looks, from my perspective, this looks like a go. But I'm only one of 4 votes. Well, we have our council.
Well, I'm 0.
I would agree with that interpretation for what it's worth, that noting that it's 29.9 without the front porch is a good way to make
What
the
it's
decision.
worth. It's worth everything to the Murphys. Isn't it? Is my opinion worth something to you?
Not to me.
Not to McCabe, but that's, okay, I'm good.
All right,
Got so
thank
many
God.
Irish continues.
Yeah.
Planning, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, nothing further than that.
Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this? No, all right. And we reviewed the application portion on the two-family use, family use only, and that's fine with the information provided. I guess I'll take a motion then.
You want me to make it?
Yeah, you
All right.
don't want to spit it all out.
Yeah, okay, then I'll make a motion that we grant the application and with respect to the family use only for a period of 3 years.
And then based on the
Oh, yeah.
distinction.
Yeah, sure, based on the distinction that the intrusion of the roof over at 6 feet, if we take that out of the equation, it reduces the FAR to less than 30%, which would be in keeping with our previous decisions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Application's granted as modified. For what it's worth.
For what it's worth.
Thank you, Nick, for what it's worth. For what it's worth. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Application number 700-24, Marcos Saldivar. Permission to erect 2-story addition and alter roofed-over porch, leaving front yard of 19.1 feet instead of required 25 feet, side yard of 8.3 feet instead of required 14 feet, total side yards of 27.4 feet instead of required 28 feet, and floor area ratio of 30% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, west side of Bridger Boulevard, 50 feet north of Baldwin Avenue, Central Islip.
Good evening, board members. James Apka from Todd O'Connell Architects, 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York, 11788. We are here tonight representing Mr. Zaldivar of 13 Bridger Street, 13 Bridger Boulevard, Central Islip, New York. The application in front of you tonight is for to construct a 2-story addition with modification of a front porch and reducing the required side yard aggregate setbacks, and also requesting an FAR of 29.6%. The property itself is a Residence B zoning. The one point of, for the lot is that the requirement for the zone is 7,500 square feet. This lot actually comes in under at 6,200 square feet. If we were to actually have that 7,500, we would not be here tonight requesting the FAR variance. We'd actually fall under in doing that. The addition that we are proposing, we are following the lines of the existing non-conforming setbacks of this building. If you look at the site plan that was provided, you could see that for whatever reason, they constructed this house not parallel to the property lines. So that has given a difficulty for the homeowner, as constructing anything on this property would require variance from this board. I also like to point out, I know the lot next door is somewhat bigger. It looks like most of these lots are probably within the same reason of the size of our lot is. The lot next door was recently constructed, and they basically did what we're looking to do, is making this a 2-story dwelling. One part of the call tonight I saw was the front porch variance. I'm not sure why that was on there, as the front porch is only 6 feet deep, and I know that we are allowed to have a 6-foot encroachment into a 25-foot yard where we hold 19. I open any questions.
Planning, any comments?
Wish I had told you this before. It's actually 5 feet in Residence B for the permitted encroachment, so that's why it's being brought up.
That's why. Okay.
I would say the difference between 19.1 and 20, which would have been a permitted encroachment, is pretty minuscule. It's not that big of a deal, in my opinion, on that end. As far as the rest of the presentation, I would pretty much just agree with them. The side yard, it's going straight back. It's just at an odd angle. There's not necessarily grants in the area, but just based on some research into the topic, the area seems to have a lot of houses that have unusual side yards. And again, not granted by the board, it just seemed to be developed this way.
Yeah, this doesn't seem to be a very highly developed area yet, so I can't imagine there being a precedence for any of these types of variances. But as you said, the houses in this area, they weren't built parallel to the property lines for some reason. They're built parallel to the street frontage.
And the FAR is 30?
Yeah, 30.
Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? No, any other questions from the board on this? No? All right, then I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application number 701-24, Gianni DeRosa and Amanda DeRosa. Permission to erect two-story dwelling on lot having width of 85 feet instead of required 100 feet throughout. Residence AA District, west side of Oakwood Avenue, 211.6 feet south of Verka Court, Bayport.
Good evening again. James Zapka from Todd O'Connell Architects, representing Amanda and Gianni DeRosa of 92 Oakwood Avenue, Bayport. We're here tonight requesting the construction of a new dwelling. We had the entire house designed, beautiful home for the couple. It went to the building department. This was a previously developed lot. We found out that is new construction. We have to abide by the frontage setbacks. I'm sorry, the lot width of the residential double A zone.
20-inch setback.
So, given this lot is pre-existingly 85 feet on the front, it is an unusually sized large parcel for the area, but all the parcels in that area seem to have a front lot width of approximately 85 to 90 feet, so it's not out of character. We tried to design the new house set back, so we're nowhere near the street frontage, so it won't be disturbance to the neighborhood. And as I said, this was a previously developed lot where the existing home was approximately 30 feet off the front yard, and also having a detached structure on that property. So we feel that the request that we're asking for is not de minimis in any way, and it would be within character of some of the larger homes in that area.
But understand, it's required 20,000.
The lot area, it's required a half acre, and you've got over 2 acres?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just narrow where you want to build the house.
We're actually, if you look at the site plan, we actually pushed the house so far back to make the rest of the to-be comply. The garage is actually the main portion that's within the narrow part.
How many 85-footers are there in a 500-foot?
I can't tell you for sure, but by estimating off of the Google, I can tell you that it is pretty common in that area. I'm planning might have a better idea, but it is common because that area was divided. It seemed like it was under. Maybe at the time of that zoning, it wasn't 100-foot width. I think across the street, there's many that look like they're about narrow. And the practical difficulty here is that you wouldn't be buildable if you wouldn't be able to have 100 feet.
With this, the property to the south, it was approved for a 3-lot subdivision once, but it just never happened.
Planning, any comments on this?
It's just to say that it does appear to me, based on the aerial, that there's a lot of lot widths here that are substandard. This is a very unusual parcel. It looks like it was maybe going to be a cul-de-sac at one point with a road going in. They're pushing the house very far back, but there was an existing house, as you can see here, way up by the front in line with most of the rest of them here at the 80 feet in width. Now they're proposing to bring it back here. At this point where they're actually proposing the house is where it opens up to a lot width that would be conforming
So
effectively.
they're going to move the house much further back?
The house effectively is going to be in
they're
this
going to
area that's
build-
currently wooded. Yes, building a new house
Oh, okay.
Yeah, building brand new
well back
construction.
in the wooded area
Yep.
where it opens up more.
It's about 300 feet off the front road.
Any other questions from the board? No questions. Does anyone else like to be heard in this application? Yes, sir. Please come up if you could let this gentleman speak.
My name is Ed Hartling. I live on Verka Court. Is there a site plan in place for this house?
Is there a site plan in place?
Yeah, the plan, that's a plot plan, yeah. Site
a
plan,
plot
plot
plan.
plan, yeah.
Yes?
They've submitted a plot plan.
Because we've also heard they're going to build a 6-car separate garage on that property behind the house.
We'll tell you in a second. Is that the plan? What is
Yeah.
that?
Is that your only question, sir?
If I get an answer to that one, it might be another, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are you going to build a 6-car garage?
There is a plan to actually construct a detached structure in the backyard.
Right.
He has a large car collection, and it does fall, we have plenty of FAR.
Yeah.
And it's within all the setbacks of that accessory structure.
It has a right.
Yeah.
So he has enough, he doesn't need us.
Okay.
We have no control, we can't tell him no.
I would clarify that. It's not necessarily as of right.
What?
It's, we do have a provision in the code, you can't have more overall garage space than you do for your primary house.
Okay.
The detached structure in the back
But
inclusive
that's
of.
not before us now.
It's not before us. Just to be clear, though, if it were going to be constructed, that garage in the back as it exists would need to come back before the board.
Okay, the garage can't be larger than the house. So but that's not before us.
Okay.
So we can't speculate because we don't know what they're actually doing.
So they would require another variance to have that 6-car garage
If it's
built?
going to be larger than the house, yes. The garage can't be larger than the house.
That probably wouldn't be granted.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever granted that.
Okay.
Take note.
All right, thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? No, okay. Let's take a motion, please.
Motion to grant the application.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. Has anybody arrived on the application of Muna Zaidi?
Yes, yes, that's right. No.
All right, on to sevens. Try one more time at the end, I guess. Application number 702-24, Jennifer Lipman Tobias. Permission to erect one-story addition, 20.8 by 21, including roofline alteration, leaving side yard of 7.4 feet instead of required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 31.46% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, west side of Ackerson Boulevard, 100 foot south of Chestnut Drive, Bay Shore.
You have the information. Good evening, board members. My name is Jennifer Lipman Tobias. I'm here before you with an application to add a one-story addition to my home, leaving a side yard, obviously, of the 7.4 feet instead of the required 14 feet. And I'm looking for an FAR of 31.46%. The proposed living space is, let me start here. I actually live there with my daughter, 11-year-old daughter. The living space is for my elderly parents. My father is a disabled Vietnam veteran. He's partially disabled. And my mother. So I am looking to have them reside with me in the home. We're asking the 7.4 feet is, I purchased the home in August of 2020 at the beginning of COVID. The structure was built and purchased leaving with that existing 7.4 feet to my next door neighbor. So that's not a change in the structure. We're just looking to extend it out to give my parents, like I said, the suitable living arrangements. 7.4.
So you want to extend it 20 feet?
Out back, right. But I'm saying I'm not encroaching any additional footage onto, on the side yard.
We see many, many, many of these, and we have to strike a balance, at least in my mind. We understand you want to stay in line with the property and go straight back. But what happens is, it's not as though you are 12.5 instead of 14 or 11.5, you have half the required, and now you want to take that already compromised and extend it almost the length of the existing house back to, that presents issues for us. It's not as clean as if it was a foot. It's half, so we're making a really compromised area
So,
even worse.
so just to kind of explain that, so that is an extension of the garage. That portion, it's an attached garage onto my house. So part of this is to convert the garage area and just extend it. If I were to bring it back, again, this is for my parents, this is where they're going to be residing full-time, but if I was to bring it back to meet the 30% FAR, and we can stay in line with that, like I said, it's the garage, so it's extending the garage rather than reworking the entire existing
No, I
living
get it.
space of my
I
house.
understand.
Yes.
We understand that, but we have to make a determination on what is going to be resulted, what's going to be there.
Right.
And we're going to have 20 foot of 7.4. That's as basic as it gets. Whatever the rationale is, we understand. It's
Yes.
parents, it's all wonderful things.
Yes.
We have to look at the physical dimensions. And also the FAR, I don't know what the neighborhood holds. What is the nature and character with respect to the FAR? Is it 30% or you don't know and we'll
30%.
find out from our
It's-
council?
I would like confirmation, but my research shows 30%.
That's another problem. If it's a conforming neighborhood and everybody has 30%, then what we're going to do is now open it up but let's hear from Nick.
She would be correct that it is 30% for this neighborhood in terms of FAR. As far as the side yard goes, it is in line. It is only one story. It's not the only property that has a non-conforming side yard like this. There's another one at 7.6. So again, that's not exactly nature and character. Beyond that, there's one around 9. There's another around 9.6. I would say that the side yard is not necessarily that well supported, but it is one story. It is in line. I would say that it could go either way with that one. As far as the FAR goes, yes, though, it is 30%.
We would happily conform with the 30% FAR.
Side yard in just a little bit more, be a little bit more conforming with what Nick said. That might cut off of the FAR that you get to 30%, and that might solve the problem.
Can you get the that's problematic for us as a conforming neighborhood. And we're not individuals, we're individualistic, we like conformity. Can you get it down to 30%? Because if you can, the 7.4 isn't, as Dan was saying, is not problematic.
I think I can get it down to the 30%.
I think then that's where we're headed.
If we can stay with that 7.4, then yes. I will resubmit it at 30%. Okay? Got it.
You have such a Steve co-counsel.
I really thought he was going to do all the work tonight, but.
All the troops came.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Weight off the shoulder, look
He didn't represent him. He showed up.
He showed up.
Like the monster stand.
Yeah, right.
Application number 703-24, Stephen and Diane Biter. Permission to subdivide lot into two parcels. Lot 1, to leave two-story dwelling on lot having width of 57 feet instead of required 75 feet, lot area of 7,125 square feet instead of required 7,500 square feet, side yards of 5.7 feet and 12 feet instead of required 14 feet each, total side yards of 17.4 feet instead of required 28 feet. And Lot 2, to erect one-story dwelling on lot having width of 47.5 feet instead of required 75 feet, an area of 6,895 square feet instead of required 7,500 square feet. Residence B District, north side of Rose Street, 358.08 feet east of Islip Avenue, Islip.
Matthew Bush, architect on behalf of the homeowner, Stephen and Diane Bider, 2615 Union Boulevard, Islip, New York. Yeah, sure.
You can lift the microphone up, yep.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We're here tonight regarding a proposed minor subdivision application for 35 Rose Street in Islip. The current property is improved with a single-family residence, pool, an accessory garage, which are proposed to be maintained with this application. The lot is located on the north side of Rose Street, has 104.54 feet of frontage, is 125 feet deep, and yields a lot size of 14,020 square feet. The property is located within a Residence B district with a CAA district abutting the northern property line and a Residence A district abutting the eastern property line. Rose Street is a dead-end street. The subject property is the last lot on the northern side of Rose Street. The proposal seeks to maintain several conditions with regard to the existing structure, including a side yard of 5.4 feet on the western lot line, which is not the side of the subdivision, aggregate side yards of 17.4 feet, and an existing front yard of 24.5 feet. Regarding the proposed subdivision, the applicant is seeking permission to subdivide the lot into two parcels, having lot sizes of 7,125 square feet for what we're calling Lot 1, which is the existing structure, and 6,895 square feet for Lot 2, which is the proposed lot, both instead of the required 7,500 square feet for the Residence B district. Lot 1 is proposed at 57 feet wide, Lot 2 is proposed at 47.5 feet wide, whereas the requirements for the Residence B are 75 feet. The proposed 47.5-foot width does expand as it gets deeper to a final width of 62.8 feet at the rear. That yields an average lot width of approximately 55 feet for the proposed Lot 2. Lot 14 maintains a consistent width of 57 feet throughout. There are several 50-foot wide lots in proximity to the property, 6 of which are located on Rose Street. 5 of those are located within 200 feet of the subject property. There are a total of 9 50-foot wide lots existing within 500 feet of the subject property. The proposed improvements to Lot 16 include a one-story single-family residence of approximately 1,170 square feet. The proposal will be designed to be within the character of the homes that exist on Rose Street, which consist of mainly 1- and 2-story single-family residences of similar footprint. Some additional notes with regard to the application, not necessarily that this would be in purview of the board, but the owner does intend to retain ownership of both properties, utilizing Rose Street as their primary residence, and they would like to occupy the proposed structure for use and occupancy by family members.
Mr. Bush, help me. I see your proposal, and I did the math, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I often am, but the proposed addition has got 91.9% of the lot area. Is that correct?
No.
What percentage does it have? I thought it has 91.9. Less, more?
Could you repeat the question? It's about a 50-50 divide in terms of lot area.
No. Look at the proposed the proposed one-story frame residence. It's got 6,895 square feet, yes?
That's the lot area.
Yes, the lot area.
Yes.
The lot area. It's supposed to have 7,500, correct? My math says that's 91.9% of the lot area.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that's hugely problematic. My concern is more conceptually. You are now creating 2 substandard lots.
Correct.
What is the rationale that we should grant that? We often see that there will be an existing conforming lot and then a slightly, not like 91.9, But by doing this, you're creating two non-conforming lots. What, isn't that antithetical to good zoning? You're supposed to go the other way.
Yes, I don't disagree with that point. However, the applicant, being that they do have the largest lot on this block, is seeking to subdivide that lot to something that's commensurate with what exists on
So-
the existing block.
Do you know what the nature and character is of the area of the lots in that neck of the woods?
There are 4 lots directly adjacent to 35 Rose Street, which have a 50-foot width, all of the same depth, 125 square feet, or 125 feet. There are 2 additional lots on the opposite side of Rose Street with a 50-foot width, and there are 3 lots on a neighboring block.
Were those
with a 50-foot.
grants or were they legacy?
Those are legacy.
So we have not granted something similar. It's not the end-all
Yep.
be-all, it's just one of the things that make up the pie here.
Yep, no, I agree.
And what is the lot area on those others? You talked about the lot width.
So the lot area, they're an existing 14,000 square foot lot, which is more than, if you look at the lots adjacent to it, those are 50 by 125 square foot lot or 105 foot lots. So both of the lot areas proposed are larger than neighboring properties on the block.
So the legacy properties that are near them are under 7,500 as well?
Yes.
Are they under 7,000?
They're 50 by 125, so I believe that's 6,250.
What is that? 6,250.
Ooh, he
I
said
quit.
6250.
I'm done for the
He's
night.
an accounting degree.
You have an accounting degree?
He doesn't tell us that.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, that's, wow.
What good that is.
Do you ever use it?
I'm here.
Just now.
Yeah.
just now.
Yeah, you count stuff.
But then
I count
When you
good.
depreciate one and you count again?
I count good.
All right, planning, what are your comments on this?
So just to reiterate that, as far as an argument from nature and character is concerned, the area does hold many 50-foot lots. Actually, a question for the applicant. What was the rationale for 47.5 lot width for the
So-
newly divided one?
The location we've proposed maintains the existing structures, or specifically maintains the existing accessory garage with the compliant setback.
Okay, so if it were any closer, there would be an issue with the setback to the
Yeah,
garage.
we could move it to, say, 50 feet, but we would then have, we'd be making changes to the existing property as well.
Okay.
Neighbors want to be heard.
So to go back into it, as far as the nature and character argument goes, I think their argument is reasonable. It's one of the 5 factors. Another factor that would have to be considered here would be in terms of impact, environmental impact. This is the end of a dead-end road. And the reason why we do cul-de-sacs is usually to have some kind of a turnaround. That's part of good planning. As far as this goes, any structure that comes in there at the end of the lot here, any vehicles would have a difficult time turning around and getting back out of place without just backing up thing. That would include residential vehicles. Anybody who might be just parking around there would have to do a bunch of turns. That would include emergency vehicles.
Let me stop you there. So if you have an emergency vehicle, an ambulance, a fire truck, what happens? How do they,
They'll have to just try their best, or they would have to back out of the street. To be clear, that's existing conditions as well. They already have to do that.
That's there already now.
It's there already. It's a question of whether or not you want to
Exacerbate it.
approve and make the situation that much little bit worse than it is existing.
One more house?
Yes.
how many houses are there now that are affected by that inability to turn around? Approximately.
Presumably, most of the ones that are in this, other than the ones that are along Islip Avenue, so between 1 to 2 dozen, maybe, that's a
1
little
or
over a
2
dozen.
dozen?
Yeah, a little over a dozen maybe at this street.
Yeah. Does one more throw the equation right out the window?
I would not say that it throws the equation out the window. It's a minor increase in it. It's whether or not you're setting a standard that that's okay.
Well,
Because this, as it's been said, this is all existing as now. It's not been granted necessarily, it was constructed this way.
are there any empty lots or subdivisionable lots that can use this as a precedent to make the,
Along this street,
yeah?
one almost certainly, but that one is along Islip Avenue, so it's at the intersection with the other road. And another one, potentially, it is smaller than this one though, so I don't think it's a one-to-one.
Anything else, Planning?
Nothing really else to much add there, no. It's, as far as nature and character goes, they have a reasonable argument here, yes.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this application? You could please come up one at a time, or both at a time.
Chairman, members of the board, good evening. We're here tonight regarding the application for Stephen.
I'm sorry, so did you give us your address?
Oh, sure. My name's Thomas Ferroni. I live at 36 Rose Street with my wife, Francine Gabrelic.
And where is that in proximity to?
It's directly across the street.
Across the street?
It's directly across the street from the applicant's property.
Thank you.
Our home is the birthplace home of my wife, Francine, and she's the longest tenured resident on Rose Street. I will say we enjoy a warm and friendly relationship with the Biters, as we do with the other neighbors on the block, and we also respect the Biters' right to develop their property in a lawful manner. I speak to you as a professional engineer, duly licensed in the state of New York. I'm a graduate of Cornell University School of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I've worked as civil engineer for the town of Oyster Bay, Department of Planning and Development. Tees and Barrett engineering and surveying firm. I've designed subdivisions all over Long Island. Regarding the application for the subdivision, I offer the following, and I can submit this for the record.
Sure.
Number one, as stated, Rose Street is a substandard street built in the 1920s and does not conform to today's standard for roadway design. Number two, Rose Street is a non-conforming dead end abruptly ending at the rear yard of 44 Darcy Circle. Our property is at the dead end. Our driveway is also at the dead end. There is no cul-de-sac, which is standard for dead-end streets, which allows for the proper turnaround of vehicles, as mentioned. The abrupt dead end is problematic for several reasons. Any vehicle that approaches the dead end for any reason must make a three-point turn in front of our house to turn around and head back up the street. On more than one occasion, I have come out to my car parked on the street and found it damaged from such turnarounds. Our driveway is at the dead end of Rose Street, and backing out relies on the necessity that no vehicles be parked directly across the street. As good neighbors, we all understand this issue and cooperate accordingly. There have been times, though, where I've had to back out of our driveway, back up the street, back into the Biters' driveway in order to head up the street. Snow removal is problematic in that snow is typically plowed directly to the dead end, leaving a huge pile of snow in front of our driveway. Occasionally, the snow is pushed to the other side of the street, which is the location of the proposed building lot. Number three, Rose Street is burdened with inadequate stormwater drainage facilities, which results in flooding of the street during heavy rains. I've spent years commuting to New York City, walking to and from the Islip train station. I have on many occasions had to walk halfway up the front lawns of the neighbors to avoid walking through such floods. The construction of a new home at the end of Rose Street will increase the amount of impervious surface area and will increase the amount of storm water runoff. This will exacerbate the existing flooding problems. The construction of a new home at the non-conforming dead end of Rose Street will likely increase the number of vehicles on the street and reduce the amount of available street parking. This will make the challenge of backing out of our driveway more difficult and will increase the risk of our vehicles being damaged by turnarounds. In summary, we believe that Rose Street, in its existing substandard condition, cannot accommodate another home on the block. As such, we respectfully ask the Board of Appeals to deny the bidder's application to subdivide their property and construct a new home. Respectfully submitted, Thomas Ferroni and Francine Gabrellic. And I believe Francine would like to speak.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'm going to approach this.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if you could just give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 36 Rose Street, Islip. My name is Francine Gabrellic, G-A-B-R-E-L-U-K.
Thank you.
My home is a third-generation home, so we've had it for many, many, many years. So I'm going to provide you with some more of the subjective commentary that I've had over the years growing up there, and perhaps this will help support some of the concerns that we have. But I also want to share something that you probably don't hear very often, and that is more from the heart. So I want to address Stephen and Diane Bider. They are wonderful neighbors. So this comes from my heart, and I do this without anger or having anything that I would want to say against them, which I do not. The neighbors have all had a great relationship with us, all of us. It's a great street. And my house, though, is at the very end of Rose Street, and it looks right at their home and that extra property that we're talking about. So again, from my heart, I want to share just these things. So in terms of concerns that I have, the density is my concern, that there would be more traffic flow coming down the street. And because it is a dead end, people think that there's not a dead end, and strangers will come down the street, they'll say it's a dead end, and they try to turn around, and it's very difficult. I find, too, it's difficult to pull out of my driveway if there are other cars there, because it's right there at that Darcy Circle dead end spot, and that's where I'm sure the driveway of the other home would be. The other is parking. There's no parking on that street, truly. I mean, there are some areas, but it would make it difficult to maneuver, even if there were emergency vehicles that would have to come down the street. The environmental aspect of it is important to me because I grew up knowing that there was going to be a huge puddle on that street from, I don't know what the number of the house is, but the Galafaro house and all the way down. There's always usually a huge puddle when it rains. There are 3 water sewer holes we used to play, and sometimes our balls would go down into those sewers, but they don't work well. And I don't even think they even really go anywhere. So there's always water. What that means, though, to me is if there were another home built, that would just cause more surface area to be blocked, and then flooding would occur. And I have had some flooding in my home from time to time when we've had bad storms. So I think another home would add to that problem. The other is the snow removal. I used to have almost anxiety when the snowplow would come down, because he would come down and push all that snow from Rose Street to the end, And I've had to run out and said to the guy, can you push it that way? Go that way to that property so that I can get out of my driveway. Many times I've had to try to get out of my driveway. And in fact, Steve Bider has helped and took his snowplow and helped get me out. So that was a concern. And then finally, I think it's just, I feel that it would be a diminished, it would diminish my home value and the values of the homes on the street, because it really would add just another home to that area. And so that is my concern. So again, I say this to Diane and Stephen with a loving heart, and whatever happens will, but this is my concerns and said from my sincere commentary. So thank you very much. Oh, we have a letter that was written by a neighbor as well, and she is handicapped, and she said what she wanted to say in a letter, and she signed it.
Yeah, which neighbor?
Would you like for me to submit that with the group
sure.
instead of reading it? Okay, because,
Yes.
or do you want me to read it?
You could submit it along with whatever you wanted to
Would you submit it to
submit.
the bailiff, please?
Okay, I will submit that.
Jay?
Sorry, Jay.
Oh, I have that.
Oh, it's not? Oh, okay. Okay.
Just wanted to, I just wanted to make a note to the file that we've also received letters from Steve and Elizabeth Winkler at 19 Rose Street and Donna Galafaro at 27 Rose Street that are in the file. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? No. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Sir, is there anything else? I can't hear you.
Couldn't hear when he said
I know.
With regard to drainage, we will be,
Speaking to the microphone.
with regard to drainage, should this be approved, we would be engineering a full site plan, which would retain any stormwater on site. So while it may not improve the overall conditions of the physical street, it would not add to any issues that may exist on site right now.
I'm having a hard time on this.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
gonna retain all the
Yeah.
drainage. He says, like, keep all the
No.
stormwater on site.
Bill, look at the name of the letter.
All right, I'm sorry. Is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay. I'll take a motion then to reserve.
Make a motion to reserve.
Second. Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye, reserve decision.
Thank you.
It's ridiculous, it's just, no,
No, I agree.
I mean, I heard her perfectly well. Don't you think?
Was she enunciated?
Yes.
It's key.
Oh, here we go, that's right. Okay, application number, glasses. 590-24, adjourned from September 24, 2024. Schaefer and Schaefer Realty Associates Incorporated. Permission to erect one-story additions resulting in floor area ratio of 40.5% instead of permitted 35%. To relocate 7 silos and erect 3 silos to rear of existing building, leaving height of 40 feet instead of permitted 18 feet each. Seeking relaxation of condition imposed as part of ZBA number 316-99. Industrial 1 District, west side of Alexander Court, 156.76 feet north of Alexander Boulevard, Ronkonkoma.
There are two, yes. My name is, sure. Yes. John Armentano, A-R-M-E-N-T-A-N-O, from Farrell Fritz. All right. So I think I can explain with the information I've given you. So again, my name is John Armentano. I'm an attorney with Farrell Fritz, representing the applicant. I also have with me Bill Hennessy, the architect who's designed these plans. I have Paul Dykes, who's a real estate appraiser who has submitted a real estate appraisal report. Sure. I also have with me Jorge Rodriguez, who's the operational manager of Abel and Schaefer, and I have Peter Trepp, one of the managing partners of Abel and Schaefer. So again, there's a history to this property. I know we have been here briefly before. Again, we are seeking relaxation of a condition of a zoning board determination, as well as the relocation of certain silos at the subject property, as well as an FAR relaxation. So I think if I can kind of paint the picture with the book that I have, it will give you an understanding of the property, and then I can get to, I think, some of the issues that the board may be concerned about with respect to the prior conditions. So if we look at what's here, and again, this is a company that has been here since 1986. It employs 105 people. It is a food distribution and manufacturing warehouse, breads and cakes and the like. You know, we are here tonight to seek the redesign of this facility to modernize the facility, and there are some relocations of the interior of the building. There's also a 13,000 square foot expansion of the manufacturing operational portions of this property, and it's being redesigned. This is a building that's been in existence since 1986. If I can just, if you go through the booklet, the exhibits 1 and 2 show the location of the subject property. Again, the existing conditions of the subject property are Exhibit 2. Again, we have a survey, and we have highlighted, this is the existing conditions, and again, there is a 25-foot paper street. It's called Sycamore Avenue. That is an unopened paper street in the town, and it is fully vegetated, and in addition, my clients have vegetated their portion of the property, and we've also been through site plan, and we have agreed to the conditions of site plan. We're here tonight, obviously, for relaxation of certain conditions, and again, we have the Exhibit 4 is the redesign of the property. The main change, as I'm sure you'll note, is the relocation of the silos. There currently are 7 silos on the property. They basically ring the southern, or they form a perimeter around the southern end of the building, and they are being relocated in the rear of the building, and you can see that in the Exhibit 5, which are the elevations of the subject property. And again, to the point, there's Exhibit 6, which does. Yep. Well, the site is being redesigned. It has, what's changed from the last, we exist with certain conditions that were granted. I can take you through those. I do think it's important, and to answer your question, I think I need to you need to see what's on the property, and then I can address the concerns you may have with regard to the prior conditions. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, they are. And I believe we're asking for relaxation of that condition. And we have looked at this file. We've looked at the 1990 approval, which had certain conditions. The 1999 case seemed to focus extensively on the concern of the neighbors from noise from the operating silos. So the reading of this decision, which is also included in our Exhibit 11, is the condition that you stated was there will not be to the rear of the subject property. But that was based upon a concern from the neighbors that the issue that they were concerned about was the power source, which had been generating noise. What was done as a condition was to put a noise attenuating structure around it. So that mitigated the issue. And I think so there have been and there are no concerned neighbors with respect to this application. It is an industrial property. It has been approved for 7 silos. We have a real estate expert who has indicated there will be no reduction in property values to the community. The sheer fact that a condition exists is not a permanency that this board cannot relax. And I think we have a rationale for that relaxation so that it can be mitigated. One of the mitigating features, and I also think it bears reference to note that in 2008, which was Exhibit 12, I'm sure it's in your records, another silo was constructed on this property. There was no concern from the neighbors with respect to this additional silo. So the fact that the silos exist, I think, is an existing condition on the subject property. This is a redesign of an older building to accommodate the modernization of this facility. They are trying to be competitive. They would like to stay in this location. They've been through the health department approvals. They've invested $100,000 in Pine Barren credits. There's been quite a bit of energies devoted to this. We had been through a site plan review process extensively with the town. These conditions were not raised. Be that as it may, we have gone very far down this road. And I think to address your concerns with respect to what has changed, the technology has changed with respect to these silos. The silos do not make noise. The concern that I believe was the foundation or the reason for the condition of the approval was concerns about noise and visibility. Yes. I didn't see that noted. The concerns were based on noise and sound. The issue of, I mean, that was the main driving force. That is also one of the conditions where there was a screening condition. Yes. These silos take flour as well as sugar. These are silos that, as many bakeries in Islip, there are many, they have these are devices to hold the raw material that is then, it is filled from the bottom by the trucks, and then it is then processed through a blower system that brings it into the manufacturing facility. And right now, the redesign, and part of the reason for the need to relocate this is the building is getting a major facade change. They're moving the administrative offices into the southern portion of the building, and you could see, and it may be helpful if you could see it. We have a better rendering, if maybe Bill, if you will. Let me just. Yes, to the west is residential. Right. Yes, so if you look at the site plan, the silos are, there will be a total of 10, so we're increasing by 3. That is correct. And the reason for that, no, I understand the concern that the board may have, but I think there's a reason that just because it was said once that it shall never change, I understand what a condition is.
It's not only that, what, as we addressed last time, our concern is it abuts a residential neighborhood.
That is.
And I have a feeling that it was granted with the proviso for no new silos. Not only do you want to add new silos, you want to add a total of 10.
Well, no, we're not adding a total of 10. We're adding, the aggregate is 3. We have 7 that exist. Well, there are, and that may be useful, there are.
How many are there, let's
Yes.
define there.
Yes.
How many are abutting the residential area?
Yeah, there are currently 3. They were approved in 1990.
So you want to go to 3 to 10.
That's correct.
So you're adding, my math says that's plus 7. And they're all going to be 40 feet?
They've ranged from 38 to 40, but again, as so that we're aware, as I'm sure this board is, if the concern is the size that this object looks like, I'd suggest you look at Exhibit 7.
And also, we understand that prior decisions are not sacrosanct. But what is, usually something changes, such as they knock down 5 houses and now it's a right of way, or that now it's some. Okay, those are the conditions that have changed. Other than the fact that your client needs and wants something to be competitive, all legitimate things. What's changed in the physical structure
Yes.
of the neighborhood that now it's okay?
I can answer that question, and then Bill can answer as well. The change that has occurred is, in addition to what was approved in 1999, which had the provision that silos cannot be located in the rear, subsequently to that, in 2001, a major addition was added to the property. And if you can, I think it's informative for you to see this is a change. Because if you look at Exhibit 7, this does show you the silo. And in my opinion, it's a part of the building. It's considered an accessory structure because that is how it has always been defined by this code. But it is affixed to the building. These are equivalent to smokestacks or something to that effect. So in terms of the height that's already been granted by this board, if you look at the silos themselves are opaque objects that sit next to the building. What I think is a material change to the property, which the neighbors have also experienced, is the next page shows you the expansion of the facility, which is now a 54-foot metal manufacturing extension. So the issue of something being seen, they are already seeing a large structure in their backyards, and I have been to this property several times.
What you're saying is, in 2001, there was a grant to make a 54-foot high building, and now the neighbors get 7 to 10 silos.
No, I'm saying there was no. Well, I'm trying to help you. You know, the logic is if the concern is that there is an object in the back of a residential property, they do back up to an industrially zoned property. It is not as if we're not coming in here new. This has been in existence for decades. This building, this addition has been there for 24 years. So what I am suggesting is if the concern, which was not raised in the transcripts of 1999, was not the size of the silos, it was the concern of the sound that was being generated by the power source. That is what is in the decision. That is what I've read through the transcript. That is what was the driving factor in my opinion, what was the rationale for that decision to limit the silos. But the more important part of that decision was they wanted the power source to have noise attenuation, and that was done. And again, to say what has changed, there has been an evolution in this type of machinery such that they are now operating under vacuum force. The sound issues, and my clients have run decibel counts. These do not exceed, when the machinery is on, it does not exceed 70 dBA. So you have this is a manufacturing facility. Another thing that is changing, which benefits the neighbors and in my thought, is a mitigating factor, is the 2 active rear loading bays that do face the neighborhood are being removed as a function of the relocation of these silos. So another change that is mitigating what might be the concern of this board is that we are removing active bay doors for truck deliveries, which are in the rear of the building and do face the neighbors. We will be reducing the concerns of noise from the relocation of the truck bays. The technology has improved so that the sound is not as it exists today, and as it exists today is not at a level that has caused any concern. And I'd like the board to take notice that this has been noticed twice. There is not neighborhood opposition. My client has operated very well with the neighbors. They have agreed to operating during the hours of 7 to 6. They're operating in consideration of the neighbors to the rear of their property, so they're lessening activities. We are relocating the truck bays to the north, so we're taking away a lot of the interface or a lot of interaction that this industrial site is having with the residential neighbors. We are prepared to increase noise attenuation if the board finds that to be a mitigating factor, to grant relief from the condition that says there cannot be silos located in the rear. But again, I think the change here is the technology has improved, the building is going to be more efficient, the impact that was being brought to the board's attention in 1999 no longer exists. Another silo was approved in 2008. There was not community concern at that time. To me, that's a testament to the facility operating as a good neighbor, not having the impact that was, in my opinion, the theory behind the granting of the condition. So a lot has changed.
How many, prior to your application in 1999, up to your decision in 1999, how many silos were in the rear?
There were, that's reflected, let me just check. Yeah, I don't have, there's a picture. Yeah. No, I
believe it's 3.
Yes,
There was 3 silos in the rear from the very start of the case
Yes.
in 1990.
Yeah, I'd like to, I can show you the picture. The Exhibit 10 does show you the location of 3 silos on the rear of the building. They existed there. That is what the decision says and the document in the back of that decision. That is correct.
So, again, the decision says no additional silos. There's 3 there, then, there's 3 there now, but you want to move 7 more. That's what I just want to make clear.
That is correct. No, understand, yes, yes, that is correct.
I wasn't sure what was there in 1999, but there were 3 in the rear in 1999 that you will not keep where they were.
That is correct.
On that picture, where's the rear?
Yeah, let's,
So to be clear, these are the 7 silos that are existing right here. There's the 3 that are back here. There's 4 additional ones that were granted going up along the side. And they're proposing to move effectively those 4 that are currently on the side back to the rear and make 3 additional new silos also to be located in the rear. So they're adding 7 to the rear. The rear in this case is this area right there. So where the 3 silos are existing and this kind of nook in the building here.
Nick, can you also help me? I see the 3 silos, what we're calling in the rear. Are they going to remain where they are, 1, 2, 3, or are they moving? That's, I'm asking Nick, hang on. Nick, do you know?
To be honest, I don't know specifically.
Where, somebody tell me, where are the 3 existing? No, it's 3 in the rear. I just want to know, is it yes or no?
Yes.
Are those 3 remaining in the same place?
the answer, I will answer you if you look at Exhibit 4. No, it helps, it's illustrative. I think it's a picture. But again, to answer your question, there's 2 rows of 5. I would guesstimate that one of the silos that currently exists will remain exactly where it is, because the silos currently run along the rear of the building 3 and then 4 drop down, right? So they kind of like a bookend around the southwest corner of the building. The relocation places 2 rows of 5. So again, I think if we're thinking about the numbers themselves, I don't think they are the numbers. But a silo in front of a silo, you cannot see the silo behind it. So technically what you're seeing are 1 row of 5 silos. If you want to look at the elevation, I think that speaks to that point. The elevation is in my exhibits as well. It is Exhibit 5. So I think it's illustrative if you look at, so if you look at Exhibit 5, there's an elevation. You see the locations of the silos. There are 2 rows of 5. So what you're really seeing is 1 row of 5 because you cannot see behind the first silo. Does that make sense?
My concern, you're trying to address it, and I understand that, and I'll continue with this. My concern is that the 1999 decision denied you from building any more silos closer to the residential neighborhood part of where the building is located. Now you come back, and regardless of the reasons why they denied you the additional silos in the rear, now the concerns about the residential neighborhood, now you're going to move 7 more that way.
Again, the concern of the residential neighbors, I think,
The whole space you have there, that's the space that goes closer to the residence.
well, there's nothing along these silos cannot be located in the front of the building. There's no room along the side of the building. The design, and maybe Bill can speak to this, it is a change in the facility so that it can manufacture more efficiently, right? That's the rationale, we understand that. No, and I appreciate that. This is not, but I think if you think, or if you consider what the rationale was for the 1999 decision, again, it was focused on noise.
But does it say that in the decision?
Yes. Well, the decision is the transcript. I can pull the entire record for you.
You keep saying the decision.
Yes.
I'm asking, is that enunciated in the decision, or are you extrapolating? Is it in the decision? Is it or isn't? It will say, based on noise, vibration, blah, blah, blah. If it's not in the decision, then let's not have a record where, and I'm not saying you're doing it purposely, but let's not have a record where somebody keeps saying in the decision when it's not. It's an extrapolation of what your concerns raised. Which one is that? Also, we know boards get put out all the time when they acquiesce to the demands of the mob. So we don't do that.
I appreciate that.
So, is it in the decision?
I believe that it is in the decision.
Where is the decision? What tab?
It is it's the second page.
What tab?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The tab is 11. So the last paragraph is where I think it addresses the issue of noise. I'm sorry, it'll be page 2. So it's the second page of tab 11.
No, but see, I disagree with you. I'm reading from your exhibit, and I'm reading from the first paragraph on page 3. And I'll quote from the board. The degree of relaxation is very severe. A height change from 18 feet to 40 feet, but there are already 3 silos on the site. The 4th has been approved. And it goes on that, and then it goes on to say, and the addition of 2 more would not substantially change anything on site as long as they do not come close to the residence. So I don't know when you say it was the physical structures and the height were not a concern. The board is saying they are a concern.
Okay, then I'll take you to the next page where it's in the middle of the first paragraph.
I'm reading from page 3.
Well, page 3.
September 14th, 1999.
Right, so if you're on page 3, I thought you were on page 2, but if we're on page 3. Okay, so I'm going to read to you a portion of that then.
From what?
From page 3.
Page 3, what part?
I'm getting there. I can't, it's the one, it starts with the word this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This board does not feel the additional silos would adversely affect surrounding property values. Then it continues on. The degree of relaxation is very severe, and you read that to me, but they granted the variance to allow the height of 40.
Yeah, they granted it saying those 3 silos.
If I could just interrupt really quickly, I think I found maybe the part that he is looking for. This is from the residents, a letter. A letter has been sent to us with the majority of those individuals, referring to the residents that were originally opposed, now consenting to the additional silos.
Slow down, because I can't hear you and she can't get you or hear you. So slow down and say it louder.
A letter has been sent to us.
I'm sorry, where are you reading?
This is after the conditions on the second page. The first paragraph there. To us with the majority of those individuals now consenting to the additional silos being made with the conditions to reduce the noise by moving the silos further away from them, as well as the power source, and to have the plantings maintained and the buffers enhanced. I wouldn't say that necessarily means that visual was not a concern. The landscape buffer certainly speaks to the fact that visuals may have been concerned. I would say that noise seemed to have been the primary concern based on that.
They have received the notices, we have not heard. I know that we have had interaction with neighbors, not on this particular application, but all the interactions have been fine with the neighbors. But no, we did not ask them, will you approve this application? We did not take that step. In my opinion, the lack of attendance indicates there's not a concern. We've been operating this facility for decades. They have been good neighbors. They're making the site better. They're improving the site. We are willing to enter into further landscaping buffers. That is also part of our site plan process. So we are improving the property. We are not causing detrimental impact to the neighbors through noise, through visibility, or through property values. This is, in my opinion, we are not adversely, and we have the support. Correct. If you would like us to attempt that, that's certainly within our ability, because this is an expensive project and we'd like to be given the best opportunity. If that is a condition that you'd like us, or a subsequent meeting, we are fine with reaching out to the neighbors in this respect. We have no opposition, which to me is a favorable response. I'm sorry? Well, opposition is worse, right? That would mean we hadn't, or they don't like it. The absence of opposition does not indicate support, but it's correct, right? I mean, we could debate the point. That's right. Well, I can have Bill take you through the reasons why and the locations. I think that'll be helpful, and then I have the real estate expert to just address the property value concerns.
Sure, it's Hennessy. So, right now, the way the So again, as John has kind of expressed, Abel and Schaefer is trying to not just expand their facility, but upgrade and modernize their facility to really address the concerns of the next century of operation. How's that? So right now, the company is bisected. The administrative components of the facility are in a different location. They're off-site. The desire in modernizing this facility is also to be able to get everybody under one roof. So in the southern portion of the building, there's a 30-foot high structure where there's a current production area that needs to be retooled. What we're proposing to do is to take that production area, move it to the center of the building where there was the 45-foot high 2001 addition. We're going to take a portion of that space to create a new production area, which is opposite a second production area that was also built in 2001. So both production areas will be in the center of the building. It frees up the space at the south end for us to be able to bring the administration back into this building, float a mezzanine of about 3,000 square feet, and create roughly 6,000 square feet of administrative office. The reposition of the silos to the rear of the building or to the west allows us also to get these silos closer to the production, which helps to reduce the noise, increase efficiency. So it's sort of a very woven and knit type of a design that all these pieces are interconnected, and they're not without consequences if we're unable to achieve our goals. Again, we're relocating the receiving dock to the north end so that shipping and receiving is all in the same location at the north end of the property, away from the residential side of the property. This also allows for a much more efficient operation. The height of the silos and the increasing the number of the silos allows us to reduce the number of trip generations to the site by storing more raw material. As what's also been mentioned, the technology is being changed and upgraded from a blower system to a vacuum system, which also reduces the noise and, again, increases the efficiency of the operation.
Was noise an issue beforehand, or was noise not an issue like right now? Is noise an issue?
It doesn't seem to be an issue. There's been no neighborly complaints. We did do some monitoring just to try to get a sort of a benchmark of where we are now at 70 decibels, which, if I can sort of help you understand, that's about the noise level of a residential lawnmower. So it's not an issue. It's not an issue now, but we're saying is just through the process of creating new equipment, we're going to get better results anyway. So the noise will be even less. And essentially, that's sort of the whole crux of the whole project, is try to get us all under one roof.
You're telling us that the silos, or the equipment that operate them, are quieter now.
I'm not saying they're quieter now. I'm saying that their noise level is measured at 70 decibels, which is about equivalent to a lawnmower. The new equipment in the new design will reduce those noise levels further.
We have literature on, I mean, you're telling us it's going to reduce. Reduce is a big word. 1 decibel, 2 decibel, 10 decibel, because when Nick read from the 1990 decision, that was a concern, and that's why they moved the silos. It says, with the condition to reduce the noise by moving the silos further away from them. Them, the pronoun meaning the neighbors.
But there were no decibel levels indicated in the report for us to even understand what that really meant, other than just a general concern.
No, what I was saying is you tell us that it's going to be quiet. That's why we can move them where they didn't want them before, 20 years ago.
Right.
You'll say it's going to be quieter. I'm going to say, how much quieter?
That's a fair question.
Do you have literature? Do you have literature that you're basing that statement on? You said they're going to be quieter. I'm sure there's factory specs or something that you're basing it on.
Yes.
I'm trying to find out where is it? What is it? Show it.
Okay.
Also, is it the silos that make the noise? No, the equipment, right, the service. And how about the trucks and service? Sure.
I mean, you're asking, again, the silos.
What is the source of the noise?
Correct, I know we're focused on noise. The noise that was the concern in 1999 was not from the silos, it is from the machinery, the power source that takes the flour that's inside the silo and pushes it through piping to the manufacturing facility. what was a condition of the 1999 approval was soundproofing the power source. That seemed to solve the problem for the neighbors. Yes. I've heard what you said, yes.
I'll ask again, you're moving them back where they didn't want them in 1999. You're doubling, almost tripling. But you're saying, well, they'll be quiet. Where's the literature? What is that based on? That they're quieter. The statement was made, I'm imagining you read it from some document from the manufacturer. That you make that statement.
Yes.
You just throw it out there.
No, no.
Yeah, it's gonna be quiet.
No, we can furnish you with that information if you'd like it.
What is it that you're relying on? Give me the name, give me the document. Where is it that you're making this statement?
I'm basing it off of the plant engineer who has been reviewing which equipment they're intending on purchasing.
Does he have that?
We don't have it with us right now, but we can certainly present it to you.
What I'm saying is the statement.
No, I understand.
We want to investigate it.
Of course,
And we want to know what's behind it.
of course.
The data.
But I don't have it for you tonight, but I can get it to you. Okay.
So, can I just, my name is Jorge Rodriguez, I'm the operation manager in the company. So I'm the person who really living with this situation every day. So we just was last week in Germany, just seeing the new equipments. We know the new equipment is really less noise. I don't know how less, but really less noise. My team take the control, the decibels last week to see how it's currently. And now currently we have just 71 decibels as now. That means like less than one full truck running in the street. So create more noise, a full truck load, a truck running than my silos. It's not producing too much noise. The reason that I think, because this is in 1999, our company is running 3 shifts. So the neighbors say, oh, it's 2 a.m. and the truck is feeding the silos. So we changed that one. That's not happening anymore because we just run 2 shifts from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I just make the condition to all my suppliers that they cannot bring me trucks no before 7 a.m.
Those are self-imposed conditions.
Sir?
Those are self-imposed conditions. You can change those conditions.
That is correct. I would add that,
Not like it's etched in stone.
well, yes, we would agree to that being etched in stone. If that is a condition that this board would like, we can issue hours of operation covenants. We have no problem with that because it's not going to affect the business factor. So if that's something that helps mitigate and gives you the support to make this decision, then we will be more than willing to enter into that. And again, if there is a need for, again, I worked on other projects with generators. They are louder. They are greatly reduced by noise attenuating barriers. That is a condition that we would also consider from this board as a way to reduce, as a way to make a change in the conditions that previously were set in 1999. So I think, and we're offering additional plantings. That's also part of our site plan requirement. So there are many things that we are willing to do to change the situation, to give you the comfort level to go forward, to allow for this major change to the project, to make it a better project, to allow Abel and Schaefer to stay here, to also accommodate the needs of the neighbors. They're not looking to draw a flashpoint. No one benefits from this. So we are willing to enter into, if that's part of what the board is considering, a condition, a covenant recorded that requires hours of operations to be within the reasons we can discuss, to also have additional plantings placed along the property line, and in addition to also provide noise attenuating barriers to the extent that that is required as well. I think there are many ways to make things change so that this condition can be relaxed for this product, for this property.
Okay, it still doesn't address the physical structures, but there's nothing you can do to address those. Okay. I'm good. Yeah, did you hear planning, any comments?
I would just agree that the original reason for the conditions in 1999 was for the visual and noise impacts. So if that were going to be removed, they would need to be replaced with something that's also going to be effective in addressing those concerns for the neighborhood. As you just said, and as we had discussed prior, there are other ways that could be addressed in terms of the visual impact and increase in the landscape buffer, in terms of the noise, a sound attenuating fence or barrier, and in terms of what would be the largest concern, which would be any kind of trucks or activity happening at times where people may be asleep, a self-imposed deed covenant that would restrict those hours so that it is not disturbing people at sensitive hours of the day.
Have they been through any other process with the town, any of the boards?
They got approved by planning board.
Took 2 years at planning, so well, we actually have the covenants, we've agreed to the covenants from the planning departments. We've already agreed to covenants to move forward with the site plan. Sure. Yes, this site plan application was before. Joe. Well, it's not planning board. We have, it's not a formal planning board approval. It was administratively done.
It went to planning board, yes.
That's correct.
Not a public. No, it was. To be clear, yes. It was approved by planning board for a landscaping and parking relaxation. They did not address at the time any of the concerns being brought up tonight.
Because it wasn't brought to our attention, but the location and the increasing, the location of the silos was before the planning department for the site plan amendment as well as the expansion of the move. That's correct. What triggered us coming here was the variance height for the silos, which is the first reason we are here, and the FAR, and then the condition. Well, no, that was raised, in my recollection, the night I was before you in September. That was never brought to anyone's attention, so I want that to be clear as well, that condition was never brought before to our attention from the town. Not that it had to be, it was in the zoning board files apparently, but we have records of the ZBA approvals with no reference to those conditions.
Just so we can kind of round out the record, do you have any prior grants of 40-foot silos other than you in this immediate area?
Well, there are no other, silos are a unique thing, but we have been granted, so I don't think there needs, you have set the precedent already with the height here by granting. Correct.
So the record is clear, there are no other grants that you have seen.
There are no other bakeries with silos within there are no other bakeries with silos. Oh, there are plenty of 40-foot structures. Our structure itself is 58 feet. What we're dealing with is the accessory structure restriction in the L1, which is 18 feet. That is a...
Then I'll follow up any other 40-foot accessory structure. I know we had a sphere or something. What was that? Ed, a vacuum sphere? We had a sphere. We had a sphere. Any other 40-foot accessory structure?
I guess I'm confused. If we have been granted the exact relief we're requesting, I'm not sure what other... this board has granted this relief for this property. But to answer your question, I do not have another silo or sphere to point to within 500 feet. There are no other bakeries. Our building itself is 58 feet tall. So in terms of, and again, I would argue that this accessory structure is a little bit of an anomaly in our situation. In my opinion, an accessory structure is a detached structure from the main structure. Your code is not clear on that, but an accessory structure is not connected to the main structure. So for the argument I would make, we are physically connected to this structure, which is 58 feet tall. I understand the reason for an accessory structure to be smaller, that would mean it is detached and it can benefit from a less of a side yard setback, meaning the reason why you have a shorter height. But these are more like chimneys attached to the building. They are attached to the building. They are physically connected to the building. So to the point, although I don't mean to belabor the point, these are affixed to the side of the building, in my opinion, would make them not accessory structures. However, the prior decisions of this board have always considered them accessory structures, and they have granted them the relief that we are seeking tonight. No, you have considered these silos since 1990. These silos have been considered by the town to be defined as an accessory structure. With that being said, you have then granted the variance height relief to 40 for these exact structures. 7. We have 7 currently. Correct, but the decision, no, but just to be clear, the height does not, the height reduction or the accessory height does not get involved with the location of it. It is 18 is the required, 40 is permitted. It doesn't get into where it's supposed to be located. This site has its own statement to that, but it is not, the height does not require its location to be where they are in this consideration.
Nothing, well, actually, the silos has been the primary focus of it. I just want to make sure the board has taken into consideration the FAR and whether or not you are or not okay with it. It's not necessarily in keeping with the area. However, I would say about 3% of that is interior mezzanine, so it's not represented in the building's bulk. We do have a specific code section that storage mezzanines get to add additional FAR. That's not the case here. But with that being said, the main concern would be increase in activity. And I think that's been at least somewhat well addressed by the planning board with regards to a parking relaxation, have more employees in the building. That's already been addressed by the planning board side of things. As far as the activity goes, it's an industrial park. So given all that, so long as the activity is not going to be bothersome to the residences, which can be addressed in the manners in the same way that the silos are, being currently addressed with potentially self-imposed conditions, I don't believe it would be problematic, so long as the board notes that there is a mezzanine involved in that, and that is reasoning for them to do so.
Right, and I did want to address that because there is, I know we focused a lot on the main event here with the silos, but there is an FAR relaxation. I think Bill can elaborate on that. If you consider the site itself, again, your FAR requirements allow, it's 35, but you allow an additional 10 if it is storage in the mezzanine. This property has a footprint, which I would consider the box, which is the FAR, to be at 37% if you reduce the mezzanine. The mezzanine is triggering an FAR increase. There is, just for an example, I know it may not be apples to apples, but to the immediate north, and it is Exhibit 13, is 2020 Ocean Avenue, and that was the perfume facility that was constructed there. It has an interesting call of the meeting. The grant that was granted in 2015, which is Exhibit 13, allows for the erection of a one-story addition, leaving floor area ratio of 45.4 for that building, and that building is located, you can see the aerial photograph. The last page in the exhibit is to the immediate north of our property. It is a large building, and it received an FAR grant of 45.4. We are, that's fine. I just want to make sure we're clear for the record because, you know, I'm sensing I need to make a record. Hopefully not, but yes. Thank you. If you would like us to provide you with any type of sound documentation, we can definitely do that if you'd like to leave the record open for written.
You spoke of 3 types of conditions, right?
Yes.
Sound attenuation, hours of operation.
Correct.
And increased buffer plantings.
Correct, yes.
So why are we asking them to propose that to us, what those conditions would be?
Well, I would take the cue from the engineering department as to what, I mean, I can come up with sound attenuation. We would agree to sound attenuation at the recommendations of the engineering department. If you are asking me to come up with something. Oh, that's fine. We'll draft. I don't need to do it now, but yes, we can give you that information. I could.
Anyone else would like to be heard of this application? Take a motion to adjourn.
Thank you for your time.